reports.
AXA says it is collaborating with various stakeholders to prevent any disruptions in February. In a statement, it says airlines and suppliers are exploring alternative measures such as tankering or refueling at other airports to manage fuel needs. Meanwhile, some airlines have raised concerns that their suppliers are restricting them and that they are not able to secure enough fuel to get them to their next destinations. As a result, they've started making alternative plans to make fuel stops at other airports.
And finally, newly inaugurated U.S. President Donald Trump says he will declare a state of emergency at the southern border with Mexico. Trump has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. He has also promised to defeat record inflation and support the U.S. energy sector, including oil and gas. Trump says he will deploy troops to the southern border to stop what he terms the invasion of the country by illegal immigrants.
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came. We will reinstate my Remain in Mexico policy. I will end the practice of catch and release, and I will send troops to the southern border to repel the disastrous invasion of our country.
Recapping the top story, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says he will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committees on the decision to reconfigure them. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Some disruption in store for motorists on Malabongwe Drive in the Randburg area. Yesterday we had a truck overturned on Malabongwe Drive on-ramp to the N1 North. It's still there this morning awaiting recovery. So if you come from Straydon Park or you come from the Randburg Central side, Ferndale if you like, you can't come off Malabongwe and on-ramp to the N1 up to Four Ways and the Sunning Hill area. You can do it if you come from North Riding and Kaya Sand side. Malabongwe, that ramp to the N1 North open, but not coming out of Straydon Park. So it will be quite disruptive around there. Durban stationary vehicle just after Market Road on your way down towards Ashburton. Also fallen tree on Peter Brown Drive, likely to cause some problems around Peter Maritzburg. No lights on South Coast Road at the M7. That's a really busy junction in Durban, so watch for some delays building up all over that one. And the winds in Cape Town, you would have noticed that around Cape Town yesterday. It has closed the Huguenot Tunnel to high-sided vehicles and trucks because of the strength of wind at that viaduct section, and the wind is blowing a lot of sand over Baden Powell at both Monmouth, BC and Coastal Park, so you need extra caution through those areas. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM Sports headlines, it is cricket action as the Paarl Royals reign supreme. David Miller's team storm to the SA20 top spot. And in Formula One, the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has officially joined Ferrari, calling it the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. All the details around 6:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Today is Tuesday, the 21st of January 2025. Good morning and welcome to it, the Tuesday edition of The Morning Brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane and I'm here to deliver your morning brief. Come, let us spend the next 3 hours together informing and engaging each other and sharpening each other's perspectives on the key issues of the day. Right, let me start here. I want to sort of prick your brain a little bit on one or two issues that we will cover on the show today. The first one has to do with broad-based black economic empowerment. Slow down, Thulasizwe. Let's say it again. Broad-based black economic empowerment. And the context for that, let me just give it to you very quickly. The Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition, Park Stau, in September last year, gazetted the legal sector code that is aimed at advancing the transformation of the legal sector and facilitate access by historically disadvantaged individuals and categories of persons. And I mean, it has been characterized, the sector that is, it's been said that it's been characterized by significant barriers for black and particularly women practitioners in meaningfully participating in some sectors of legal work. And if you know how these things work, the more specialized legal work practitioners engage in, it's basically a feeder channel to your judiciary, for example. So if you're not getting transformation within the legal practice, in all its facets, in terms of attorneys and advocates, basically that's what your bench will look like in terms of the judiciary, the throughput to the judiciary. So in many instances, briefing patterns, we are told, are skewed, workflow is irregular, and the opportunity to do specialized work is limited, as I've just said. Until now, the legal sector has been governed by generic broad-based black economic empowerment codes. Now, the minister has introduced sector-specific codes that address issues of ownership, management, and control of law firms, as well as skills development and training. But as you might expect, not everyone is thrilled. The law firm Norton Rose Fulbright is heading to court over the matter, and now they are pitted against entities such as the Black Lawyers Association, among others. We will touch on this story. In fact, we will discuss that tension that is, arisen as a result of the gazetting of the legal sector codes. But I wanted to use this discussion that we will have in the second hour of the show to engage you broadly on broad-based black economic empowerment. And the question I want to pose to you is, does Triple BEE deserve the bad rep that it sometimes gets? Does it deserve the resistance, that pushback that it sometimes receives from some sectors of our society? Why is that the case then, if we say that it does deserve the bad rep and the pushback? Why is that the case when it has its foundations in the very constitution that we all revere and pride ourselves in and are quick to cite when it favors our case on other things, such as holding, Cyril Ramaphosa and others to account? Because, it is from the same constitution. So why does it feel like sometimes that it is not framed in that way, that it is a constitutional imperative? The achievement of equality, and that's a quote, the achievement of equality is one of the foundational values in our Section 1 of our Constitution, basically where we define ourselves and say who we are as a society. It talks about that, the achievement of equality. And then it goes on in Section 9, subsection 2, and tells us that, quote, to promote equality, legislative and other measures designed to protect or advance persons or categories of persons disadvantaged by unfair discrimination may be taken, end quote. Clearly, Triple BEE, in terms of the Act, the Triple BEE Act, is obviously one of those legislative measures. But to the extent that there has been poor implementation by the state, does poor implementation detract from the constitutional legitimacy of Triple BEE? Can we say that this great commission from our constitution to say go, as they say in the Christian world, go and seek to achieve equality, can we say we've done enough in 30 years? We don't need this thing. It's a burden. All those arguments that you hear from time to time, let's leave it, let's park it, we are done with it. That's the conversation I'm hoping that we will use the legal sector code conversation to have this morning. You can give me a call on that, the number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. The other issue, of course, is so somewhat related. I wanted to hear from you if you've been watching the Judicial Conduct Tribunal into Eastern Cape Judge President Selbin Benenge, and if you follow the Senzo Meyiwa trial. There's the element of translation services there that is on full display, perhaps for a change. We will have a conversation in the second hour of the show that looks into the quality of translation services, particularly in the courts, knowing how important that is for people to be able to have access to their fair trial rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution. I must admit, I've had instances, and I speak frankly, especially in the Senzo Meyiwa trial, I've had instances over the period of time without, seeking to denigrate any of the professionals who sometimes do a stellar, bit of work there. But I must say there have been instances where I've wondered if we shouldn't have first language speakers of the language in question doing the translation in some of these matters. And that's at the High Court, and that's in a case that's high profile. I wonder what happens in magistrates' courts and the likes, and how that affects the fair trial rights of people who are accused. I don't know, just my thoughts. Indulge me, I would appreciate that. Give me a call or send me a WhatsApp voice note. All of your regulars locked and loaded, and Musa with your news updates every half hour. Rob Byrne with your traffic every 15 minutes or so. Zaikan is watching your sport throughout the morning. Ndauleng Lechela has your economics, business and market news covered. Sipho Mantula with your Africa update just before 8 a.m. And as I said, your calls on 086 000 2032. Your WhatsApp voice notes, please send them to 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The first hour of the Tuesday edition of The Morning Brief starts now.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
And good morning to you.
Good morning, Thulas.
What's on your plate?
A very busy day it was yesterday for Donald Trump, his first day in the office. Yeah. And he signed off a flurry of executive orders, memorandums and proclamations reversing many of his predecessors' policies and also reinstating actions from his first term in office. Back home, we're looking at the decision by the ANC to reconfigure its provincial executive committees in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal, analysis on whether it is a strategic move to revitalize the party structures and also to improve its electoral prospects. The ANC has also taken a stance with regards to the corruption allegations against the minister in the presidency, Kumbutso Ntshabeni, and these allegations of her involvement in a 2.5 million rand tender corruption scandal during her tenure as municipal manager. The Democratic Alliance calling on Ntshabeni to step down immediately, and they're citing the completion of the Hawks investigation into the matter. The Senzo Meyiwa murder trial expected to resume this morning at the Pretoria High Court, and the state's final witness, the lead investigating officer Bongani Gininda, returned to the stand for further cross-examination yesterday. The former University of Fort Hare Director of Investigations and the Vetting Services, Isaac Plaikis, he will know his fate on his bail application appeal, and this matter will be heard in the East London High Court. Plaikis was arrested in November of 2023 by a task team that was investigating attempted hit murders on senior executive members of the University of Fort Hare. And pedestrian deaths remain a major concern. We have over 1,500 people have died on our roads during the festive season, and this was revealed by the Transport Minister yesterday, Barbara Creasy, when releasing the figures to us. So some of the stories that I will be focusing on.
Yeah, hectic news diary as usual. Thank you for that. Anne will be hearing from you. That's Anne Musa. She'll bring you updates on the news every half hour here on The Morning Brief.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
18 minutes after 6. Let's give you a sense of how your weather is looking. I have two warnings from you coming from the South African Weather Service. One is a yellow level 2 warning. It says severe thunderstorms with heavy downpours, strong damaging wind and small amounts of hail leading to localized flooding, damage to infrastructure and property, and excessive lightning are expected over the northeastern parts of the Northern Cape and the western parts of both the Free State and the Northwest. The second warning, it's a yellow level 1 warning, damaging wind resulting in difficulty in navigation at sea. That is expected between Cape Point and Plettenberg Bay. The rest of your weather looks like this. Pretoria will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 17 and a maximum of 29. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 16 to 27. Mbombela will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 17 to 27. Polokwane, cloudy in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy, 17 to 29. Mahikeng will be partly cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 21 to 32. Bloemfontein, partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 18 to 34. Kimberley will be partly cloudy and windy with isolated showers and thunder showers, 19 to 38. Cape Town will be partly cloudy, 17 to 30. George will be cloudy with a chance of light rain in the morning, 17 to 24. Gqeberha will be cloudy with isolated showers and rain, 19 to 23. East London will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 19 to 22. Durban will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 20 to 27. Richards Bay will be cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 23 to 28. And finally, Pietermaritzburg will see morning fog patches, otherwise cloudy with scattered showers and rain, 18 to 24.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
All right, let's focus on this now. It's one of the big stories of the week. President Cyril Ramaphosa says he will use the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, Switzerland this week to outline South Africa's priorities for its G20 presidency. The WEF's 2025 meeting brings together global leaders and those coming from business, government and civil society sectors to discuss complex geopolitical and geo-economic issues. Ramaphosa is leading the South African delegation, which on its own is considered to be quite significant and is expected to address delegates today. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by Professor Yanni Rousseau, who is an honorary professor at Wits Business School. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So the theme for this year's WEF meeting in Davos says collaboration for the intelligent age. What are we to take from this, given who is gathered in the room on the slopes there in Switzerland for all of this week? What does an ordinary South African make of that theme and how it will play out? What exactly will happen?
Good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to the listeners. Thulasizwe, Davos meetings of the World Economic Forum are known for the elaborate naming conventions, like globalization 20 years ago or globality probably also 20 years ago. So to me, the simple matter is, what will the South African delegation go and tell the gatherings at Davos about South Africa? And if I look around me in South Africa at the moment, what we need here is a 3% economic growth and inroads into our unemployment problem. And President Ramaphosa has not even told South Africans here in South Africa how this government of national unity will achieve those objectives. So I'm not exactly sure what they will try and sell about South Africa in Davos. And secondly, the South African government is very excited about its G20 presidency, it will cost taxpayers of South Africa a lot of money, but the big challenge is to put that into tangible benefits for South Africans that suffer in our own country.
Yeah, in fact, you talk about the G20 presidency of South Africa and how they are talking about putting their best foot forward at the WEF meeting in Davos, Switzerland. That also has its own theme, the G20 presidency of South Africa, solidarity, equality and sustainability. How does the president and his delegation, how do they strike a balance between seeking to promote South Africa's best interests and making the investment case for South Africa and at the same time showcasing our global leadership in this instance in the form of the G20 presidency?
Well, it's a difficult balance for the South African delegation. Because when I look around me in South Africa, the government is busy with initiatives to make it less attractive for foreigners to invest in South Africa, whereas we have a very expensive delegation in Davos to tell foreigners that South Africa is an attractive investment destination. Last week we heard that the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Mr. Parks Tau, intends to raise a 3% special tax on companies for Black Economic Empowerment Transformation Fund. Now, it's a strange situation where the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition starts to announce tax increases, which is normally the job of the Minister of Finance. And at the same time, we make an argument that South Africa is an attractive investment destination for companies. So what I do not see is a coherent approach towards a plan to get the economy growing through higher investment. That is what is missing. And until such time as we have such a coherent plan, there is not much that the delegation under Mr. Ramaphosa as our force can sell to international investors.
So what value then, if any, do you see in the WEF meetings taking place in Davos?
I'm sorry, but I don't see much value for it for South Africa to go at the moment. In my view, Mr. Ramaphosa should rather be in South Africa and focus on the problems we have in South Africa with logistics, harbours, etc., and try and sort those out than to go on the international stage and all sorts of road trips. We need our president in South Africa, with his government in South Africa, to focus on the problems that South Africans face on a daily basis.
But surely, Prof, that's not practical, given that the problems that South Africa faces play themselves against a global backdrop. We know the impact of shifts in the global economy, how that impacted South Africa over the past decade and a half, and therefore you can't escape the sense that we need to be plugged into these conversations. And when we talk about turning the situation around locally, are we not in part talking about attracting foreign direct investment? And one of the ways, not the only way, one of the ways you perhaps do that is to showcase yourself, to go to the world and say, we are open to business, this is what we offer.
Oh, indeed, you're quite right in saying that, Thulasizwe. But you first have to get your own house in order. South Africa was a very bad investment case for 15 years because of problems at Eskom. You don't go to Davos if you don't have electricity in South Africa. Now, admittedly, the problems at Eskom have been overcome, but again, that had to be done in South Africa. The logistics and harbour problems have to be overcome in South Africa. You have to get rid of those domestic challenges before you go and showcase yourself internationally. South Africa is caught in a low-growth trap. We've been in this low-growth trap for more than a decade. Our economic growth is less than 1% per year. Our population growth is more than 1.5% per annum. So on a per capita basis, we get poorer. Of course we need investment to get out of that trap. I fully agree with you. You have to try and attract international foreign direct investment wherever you can, but you first have to focus on your problems in South Africa. And I don't see the urgency on addressing those problems in South Africa, like non-functioning municipalities. who will invest in a municipality where there is no service delivery, as one for instance. So first focus on the problems we can fix in South Africa, and then start focusing on showcasing us to the rest of the world. So that's my argument.
I get your point. Thank you for your time this morning. That is Professor Yanni Rousseau, who is an honorary professor at the Wits Business School.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let me quickly take one or two of your voice notes now that you have started sending already.
Good morning, SFM family, and to you, Thulas. Rodman, I agree with you very well on the affair of home languages in the courts. For I strongly believe that they have some sort of impact on the outcomes thereof. And be that as it may, we have uncritical adults somewhere who are calling for the death penalty, you know, when we still have such shortcomings of the legal processes and law enforcement and so on. Zolethu speaks in Bombela.
Yeah, I like how you tied the two very neatly there. I didn't, when you started talking about the death penalty, I wasn't sure, and you just tied it up neatly. And you're absolutely spot on. It does strike at the heart of the right to a fair trial. And this is, as I will say and I'll emphasize, I've got great admiration for some of the teams that have been performing the translation services, especially in the court cases that play themselves out in the public. But through no fault of their own, I've had instances where I thought to myself, a first language speaker of this language would have phrased what was said by the witness differently, and it would have had a different kind of meaning. There's the case of S versus Maqubela that, you know, went on to start again. That whole case went on to start again, and eventually there was an acquittal at the Supreme Court of Appeal. One of the attorneys in writing in De Rebus, the Journal of Legal Practitioners, was pointing out that the issue of the quality and accuracy of translation was an issue in that case. So we've seen instances where that plays a role on the attainment of justice or otherwise. So it is not a trivial matter. It's absolutely a critical matter to address. 6:30, let's check in with Ann Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says he will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committees on the decision to reconfigure them. Northern Cape Police have arrested 12 suspects during Operation Valamkoti over the past weekend. 4 suspects were arrested on charges of illegal mining and trespassing in Claim Z. And US President Donald Trump signed a number of executive orders yesterday, among them withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Change Accord and pardoning 1,500 criminal defendants charged in the 2020 January 6th attack on the US Congress. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Just a heads up, out in the Randburg area this morning, it's already quite heavily backed up. The issue stems from the Malabongwe Drive westbound ramp to the N1 North being closed due to yesterday's truck crash. That truck's still lying on its side this morning. So if you're coming from Ferndale or from Stratham Park on Malabongwe going west, if you like, you can't access the N1 North. That's the ramp that's closed. Now keep in mind, you've got no traffic lights at the N1 highway. They've been down for the longest time. The next junction out, Malabongwe President Fushia, also in darkness for the longest time. No traffic lights there, so you'll have motorists coming across the N1 realizing they can't get onto the N1 North and then sort of going out to Malabongwe President Fushia and trying to turn around without any traffic light control. So it is pretty crazy, it is pretty busy, and we're only just sort of kicking off in terms of volumes that way. And obviously if you're in from North Riding towards the highway towards Stratham Park, it is going to be an impact on your side as well in terms of the additional traffic disruption out there. Pretoria looking a bit slow coming down the Mopani Highway again. Thea Martin's around the bend down towards Eskia and Pwllheli. Durban, there may be a little bit of wetness, wet roads going on, a bit of rain overnight last night around Durban. Lots of cloud around the region as well. Probably a good idea just to keep those headlights on, please. Cape Town, sand on Baden Powell at Monwabisi and at Coastal Park. And there's some heavy traffic again coming in through Khayelitsha, backlogging from Spine Road on the N2 down towards the R300 junction. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning to you, Zai, and I'm pretty sure, I'm hoping that you will tell me about Chelsea a bit later on, but let's start with the Pearl Royals. They were clinical, were they not?
Oh yeah, it was a royal affair, clinical. Yeah. I'm sure they're looking at the crown and thinking, you know what, we deserve this because
they're going for that crown.
They're going for it. Top of the table is where they're sitting. 6 wicket was their victory over the Joburg Super Kings at Boland Park. They were chasing 147s. The Royals got off to a fiery start. They were briefly held back by Huddersfield, who grabbed 2 for 23. However, a solid 71 partnership between Mitchell van Buren and Captain David Miller steadied the ship, with Miller finishing unbeaten on 40 of 32 balls to seal the win with 5 balls to spare. Earlier, the Super Kings, they were reeling at 36 for 4 before Johnny Bairstow's 60 of 40 balls and Donovan Ferreira's unbeaten 32 lifted them to 146 for 6. Royal spinner Bjorn Fortuin was instrumental, sparking the collapse with a sharp spell up front. The Royals now sit on 16 points, leading MI Cape Town by 2, while the Super Kings remain third. The Royals next face the Durban Super Giants at Kingsmead. That's on Thursday. Let's hear from the Royal spinner, Bjorn Fortuin.
I think just doing the simple things well. If you look at the past, we've had quite explosive players. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. There's been a lot more consistency this year in terms of executing what we want to execute and planning from that point of view. So I think just doing the simple things well and playing well at home as well contributes a big part to that.
More cricket as the South Africa under-19 women delivered a commanding performance against Samoa's under-19 women in their second match of the ICC under-19 Women's T20 World Cup at the Borneo Cricket Ground. Intabising Nene emerged as the standout performer. Her spell of 3 for 4 not only dismantled the opposition but also earned her the Player of the Match accolade. On to soccer now. SABC Sport can confirm that former Morocco Swallows coach Musa Inyatama has landed a new job following his appointment by Leruma United. The 37-year-old helped the Dube Birds avoid relegation last season before the club sold its top-flight status to Maruma Gallants, leaving Inyatama and his backroom staff in limbo over the last several months. But the ex-Orlando Pirates and Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder has finally bounced back at the Motsepe Foundation Championship, the second tier of the Premier Soccer League, as the new head coach. And there was action last night in the Premier League and a dominant display by Chelsea.
Absolutely.
They beating Wolves to end their 5-game winless run in the Premier League and move into the top 4, by the way. Excellent stuff from Chelsea. 3-1 the final score. Tennis action, the third seed and the top-ranked American Coco Gauff knocked out of the Australian Open. She was beaten in straight sets by Paula Badosa of Spain at the Rod Laver Arena in Melbourne this morning. The 27-year-old Badosa won 7-5, 6-4 and will now head for her first ever Grand Slam semi-final. And finally, motorsport, the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton has officially joined Ferrari, calling it the fulfillment of a lifelong dream. Standing proudly in front of a Ferrari F40, Hamilton reflected on his iconic moment as he was welcomed by team principal Fred Vasseur and the Ferrari CEO Benedetto Vina. Now, Hamilton will team up with Charles Leclerc for the season ahead, with the official launch of Ferrari's 2025 Challenger set for February. The British driver, who finished 7th in his final season with Mercedes, will hit the track in red for the first time at the Australian Grand Prix on the 16th of March. We'll be back with more sport at the top of the hour. For SAFM, I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling Lechela. So Ndauling, Trump reloaded, Trump 2.0, call it what you may. The crypto market is loving it, aren't they?
That's right, good morning. So the crypto industry really booming, with the most valuable coin, Bitcoin, hitting record highs as all eyes were on Trump on inauguration the day yesterday. Now, the rally was not limited to Bitcoin. Donald Trump's newly launched cryptocurrency, Dollar Trump, jumped to nearly $12 billion in market value yesterday.
Wait. He's got a new currency. I missed that bit of news.
Yes.
Dollar Trump.
Dollar Trump. Some people call it Dollar Trump. Some people call it Trump official.
Okay.
Different names for it. So it's like a meme coin. Meme coins are usually launched as a joke, but it seems like people are buying into it.
Sure. All right. Proceed.
But there's more. You're going to be shocked by the answers I tell you. So Donald Trump jumped to nearly $12 billion in market value yesterday with a 24-hour trading volume of $52.5 billion. Now, this surge pushed the meme coin to the 18th biggest cryptocurrency spot on coin market cap with a price peak of $58.5. Now, interestingly, 80% of the total tokens are owned by CIC Digital, an affiliate of Trump's business, the Trump Organization, and another business called 555. Meanwhile, the First Lady, Melania Trump's own cryptocurrency, launched on Sunday, reached a market capitalization of $1.9 billion, trading at just over $12 per coin. Now, the launch of both coins has sparked debate, with some experts questioning the ethics and regulatory implications of a public figures wielding significant influence in speculative markets. Now, Trump's promised to be a crypto president, and his expected executive orders aimed at reducing regulatory in that industry has fueled excitement in the sector, contributing to Bitcoin's new record high of $109,000. So not only has Bitcoin hit record highs, both Melania and Trump have launched their own coins as well.
Sure. Interesting times ahead. Speaking of Donald Trump, he wasted no time getting into action and kicking into gear, declaring a national energy emergency. What does that entail?
So, one of his favorite phrases is drill.
Drill, baby, drill.
And that's exactly what he intends on doing to us. Now, as Trump 2.0 takes off, the president of the U.S. has declared a national energy emergency aimed at boosting U.S. oil and gas production and further lowering costs for U.S. consumers. Now, this is part of his efforts to boost domestic energy production and undo Biden-era climate policies. In his inaugural address, Trump emphasized that the U.S. has the largest oil and gas reserves globally and intends to use them to become a rich nation again. This move is part of a broader strategy to reorient U.S. policy away from the fight against global warming and towards fossil fuel production. Now, Trump's plans include ending the Green New Deal, revoking the electric vehicle mandate, and promoting fossil fuel production. He also aims to, of course, undo those Biden regulations and ease rules on energy production, including those on oil and gas leasing. Trump also plans to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Agreement for the second time. Now, these deregulatory actions, are likely to face challenges from environmentalists and democratic-led states.
All right. While all of that was happening in Washington, what were the markets doing?
So trade pretty thin yesterday as U.S. markets were closed on account of Martin Luther King Day, which coincided with Trump's inauguration. So not much trade taking place that side. We'll probably see all the impact coming through today. Back at home, markets ending the day mixed. The all-share flat, closing 0.04% above the flat line. The Financial 15, the only indice in the red on that front, down close to 0.6%. The rand, in the meantime, continued to strengthen as the dollar steadied, trading at 18.61 to the greenback this hour from about 18.80 yesterday morning. And then over in Asia, markets are mostly mixed as investors await greater clarity on policies of the U.S. President Donald Trump following his inauguration.
All right, thank you for that, Ndauleng. We'll talk to you again in the second hour. Ndauleng Lichela will be back with another report just after 7:30 here on The Morning Brief.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the morning brief.
All right, let's turn to the story now at 17 minutes to 7. A group of unemployed doctors have staged a protest in the Eastern Cape town of Bisho yesterday. The doctors are asking for sustainable employment opportunities as hundreds of them have been left unemployed despite having undergone years of education. They used their protest to march to the office of the Premier where they submitted a memorandum of demands. I'm joined now on the line by Dr. Cedric Sihlangu, who is the General Secretary of the South African Medical Association Trade Union, SAMTU. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. So the way I understand it, the protest yesterday was part of a series of pickets to highlight this issue. What has brought us to this point where you feel urgent action is needed, and particularly in as far as this issue manifests itself in the Eastern Cape?
Thank you, Tulas. Thank you for having us. Yeah, you are correct. This is a series of peaceful protests that are in fact happening throughout the country. You'd recall a similar march was held in Mpumalanga last week, Friday, and then the Eastern Cape leg was on Monday. But in Eastern Cape particularly, Samatu had been leading protests for obviously quite a number of days now, pickets outside the Premier's offices. There'll also be a national protest to the Finance Minister on the 31st of January, because by and large, all these issues pertaining to unemployment of doctors, if you go to the Minister of Health, he'll tell you that it's a finance issue and he's trying to discuss with the finance, with the State Treasury. If you go to the MECs, they'll cite similar issues that it's a fiscal constraint issue. So as a result, the national leadership of Samatu has decided to take this to the doorsteps of the finance minister, which we'll be doing next on the 31st of January. But by and large, in Eastern Cape, yes, we conducted a similar peaceful protest. And of course, it's simply to raise the plight not only of unemployed doctors. In fact, in Eastern Cape, you would have seen numerous political parties and community members there in support of these unemployed healthcare professionals. And it's for the simple reason that the lack and understaffing of these clinics and hospitals directly impact on accessing adequate healthcare services to these communities. So the communities themselves came out in numbers in support of this plight of unemployed healthcare professionals.
And part of the cry, as far as I understand it, is for the reallocation of funds. Is this a rejection of the argument that says there are no funds that are available?
Precisely. And you'd recall, to us, that our government has demonstrated time and again that when push comes to shove, they're able to reallocate, reprioritize, and shift budgets. And I think it's further, provided for in the relevant stages. Now, you remember that Airport Company South Africa, SAA, ESCOM, and many other entities have been bailed out time and again. But remember, those entities, if you are really honest, they only cater to the fraction of the population, those who are able to afford a plane ticket, for example. It's really the minority. Now, when it comes to healthcare, which we believe deserves the bailout, meaning that if healthcare is on its knees, it's in ICU, and it's understaffed, but they are competent, qualified healthcare professionals sitting at home, surely government should reprioritize and shift funds in ensuring that we appoint those healthcare professionals so that they can service the community. But here's why you won't see that happening to us, is that the people that have to make that decision are not directly impacted. So the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Health, they have very sophisticated medical aids. So they go to your very private institutions and they get treated very well, like royalty in these private. So these happenings in the public healthcare system does not impact them. So there's no exigency to address the matter.
Has it come down to, and I see a quote here from your Eastern Cape provincial chairperson, Dr. Mpumelelo Malemane, has it come down to a point where we are doing these trade-offs and even over statements to say, doctor appointment and vacancy filling even over hospital refurbishments and new buildings? Has it come down to that, to say we do need refurbishments and new buildings, new wings and extensions and the likes, but even over that, more than that and more urgently, we need doctors?
It goes without saying, it's a no-brainer, and for the simple reason that, you see, and they do that everywhere, where you find, and we don't have any problems with building new institutions, but when you build those institutions and they don't have human resource, they become a white elephant, and in some instances they procure these expensive equipment, but they've got no specialists to actually operate them. So you've got a 20 million rand piece of equipment that has been procured. Someone was given a tender somewhere, probably inflated, in fact. They've done the job, got their profits, and this thing is just sitting there because there's no doctor to actually operate it. And that's where it's mind-boggling, to be honest with you, where we are saying, but first and foremost, you've got to start here, because these buildings on their own are not going to assist the population.
Yeah. Lastly, Dr. Sihlangu, just to recap, and I know you and I had this conversation recently, but I imagine that it's not a static situation. What's your understanding of the extent of the unemployed, the problem of unemployed doctors after having served their community service? Has it escalated? Has there been a new cohort that have just completed and also added to the numbers? Where do we stand?
Yes, correct. The cohort that just completed community service is about 1,800. And this obviously adds on those from last year who couldn't find employment even up until now. So by and large, what you're seeing is a growing population of unemployed healthcare professionals. And unfortunately, you do get comments from people like the Minister of Health who are saying, well, these doctors can go overseas. And of course, that's a travesty. If that were to happen, where we could lose such a precious resource, it would really be a sad day in this country.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Dr. Sihlangu. I didn't hear the comment by the minister, but if he did say it, it would be absolutely concerning. I've seen that play itself out elsewhere on the African continent. Trust me, it doesn't end well once your doctors are being poached actively by other health systems abroad. That's Dr. Cedric Sihlangu, who is the General Secretary of the South African Medical Association Trade Union.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Two major problems that we're watching this morning. One in Joburg, it's Malabongwe Drive. Ramp from Malabongwe coming out of Randburg onto the M1 North stays closed. The truck overturning yesterday afternoon on that ramp. It's still there. So if you're leaving Randburg, Ferndale, Stratham Park, going towards the highway, you can't ramp up towards four ways. If you're coming from North riding Kaya Sand, you can, but it's very heavily backed up. You've got traffic on that westbound side coming out of Randburg, trying to get onto the eastbound side of the point and then come back. So you've got extra traffic on that westbound side. You've got no traffic lights forever. They've been down for the longest time, both at the N1 highway and at the sort of turnaround President Forshia junction. So it's a real mess. If you're in from North riding Kaya Sand, make sure you've got plenty of time to get through to the highway, to get through to Randburg. It is significantly busier than normal. And if you're going out of Randburg, you might want to try a sort of reroute up through the suburbs and come back onto the M1 via Winnie Mandela at the Four Ways Bryanston ramp this morning. The other big story we're watching is down in Cape Town. Very thick sand on Baden-Powell Drive. Motorists getting caught in it, trapped in it. It's very sandy at Monwabisi. It's very sandy, particularly sandy at Coastal Park. So expect some traffic disruption along that coastal route between Khayelitsha and Muizenberg. You may well find City of Cape Town traffic authorities stepping in and closing that section because the sand is so thick. A video just going up to Twitter on Twitter at Traffic SA. You can have a look and see what's ahead of you and obviously come to the conclusion it might be better to reroute. Just staying in Cape Town, pretty heavy on the highways this morning. N1 from Belleville through to Century City, N2 Khayelitsha, busy to R300, then from the airport all the way through towards the M5. The M3's already from Constantia up Wynberg Hill into the Bishop Court Newlands area, so it looks like a busy set of highways around Cape Town this Tuesday. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
What you're about to hear is not an email from Standard Bank. Good day, Dave. You haven't updated your details, so your account will soon be blocked. Please confirm your card number, bank PIN, card CVV number by clicking the link below. What? Don't fall for it. Standard Bank will never ask for your banking details in an email. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more or call our fraud line on 0800 222 050. Another lesson to hashtag beat the scam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
7 minutes to 7. The latest data from Debt Rescue Survey shows that South African consumers are entering 2025 with troubled finances. The survey shows that 64% of South Africans are in debt and without any savings. There is some hope, though, as the survey found that 38% of households are prioritizing saving money every month as one of their New Year's resolutions. Let's speak to Annalyn van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue South Africa. Good morning. And thank you for your time. I did see when you were putting out the call to action for this survey and calling on people to participate. I think you were calling it the January survey. The results are now in. What do they point to in terms of how South Africans start the new year?
Well, it's telling us a couple of things, and obviously some of it we were expecting, and some of it's actually quite enlightening. So, our survey showed us that 53% told us that they avoided overspending this festive season. So that's really, really good. It means that they've taken conscious decisions and steps to try and avoid putting themselves into a January situation as far as they possibly could. But 29% told us that they slightly exceeded their budgets, and very worrying is some of the actions people are intending on taking, such as cutting back on food purchases and cutting back on essentials this year. That definitely is worrying to us.
And you also saw the dynamic of people turning to credit to basically make ends meet. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, this is something we've seen for quite an extensive period of time already, that consumers are using credit because they just can't make their budgets balance at the end of the month. So they are using credit cards and store cards and personal loans to literally put food on the table. And obviously this came through again in the survey where they told us that they are, because they have no budget left, they have no choice but to alternatively have to turn to store cards and credit cards and loans, etc.
That can be dangerous, can it not? I mean, it's not taking up credit for, the fulfillment of an investment or some kind of project, but it is to basically to depend on it to meet your, day-to-day needs.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely not an ideal situation, but we can fully comprehend why consumers have no alternative. I mean, even though we've seen some reductions in the interest rates in the last couple of months, it's not been significant enough for us to feel the real relief on our monthly budgets. And, even though inflation has slowed down, things are still getting more expensive, and it's usually the critical basket items that we require that are being affected by these inflationary impacts. So we totally understand why consumers have no alternative, but it's definitely not an ideal situation.
And on the coping mechanisms side of things, tell me a bit more about the extent to which people are cutting back on necessities, so things such as food, for example. Your survey had that aspect as well, and it brought forward some interesting insights there.
Absolutely, yes. Well, like I said, we saw that 38% have cut on food or plan on cutting back on food. Now, that is definitely a very concerning figure for us because if people have to start looking at items such as food to cut back on there, what kind of budget or what kind of dietary needs are we possibly impacting there? So that's very, very worrying. 60% told us that they would cut back on clothing budgets this year. Now, we know it's the beginning of the school year. Parents have had to, invest in school uniforms, etc. So cutting back on clothing is not something, if it's just nice to have, it's one thing. But if you have kids, for example, they grow, they have to have clothing, etc. So definitely some budgetary changes that consumers plan on making. But definitely also a case of concern around what the items are that they are having to cut back on.
Yeah, so part of the context is the New Year's resolutions that many people make, and you mentioned that you found in the survey that 38% of households have prioritizing saving money every month at the top of their New Year's resolutions. Under these circumstances and this context, is it even possible to talk about smart advice that says, how do we navigate? What's your thinking around that says, we are in this situation, we're going into the new year already heavily indebted, a lot of people saying they'll be cutting back even on necessities and struggling to make ends meet. But how do we make the best of this situation?
I think the best that we can do right now is, first, you have to sit and do an analysis of what your financial situation is. Unfortunately, it comes with that horrible B word, budgeting. We have no choice. But it's the only way we're going to know where's our money going and where are the opportunities for us to still cut back. If you have savings, and in other words, you're not struggling to pay the debt that you have and cover your living expenses, obviously try and put it into your debt as quickly as possible and reduce it, get it down as low as you possibly can. But the reality is for most consumers is they've done all of that. They've cut back, they've done everything, and they are still unable to meet these needs. And that's where they might potentially need help. But if you do have funds, definitely try and cut back on your debt, cover it as quickly as possible, and avoid new debt if you can at all costs.
All right, I've got to thank you for your time and your perspectives this morning. That's Annelien van der Poel, who is the Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue SA. So there you have it, the survey showing that 64% of South Africans are in debt and without any savings, and about 38% of households plan to prioritize saving money every month, but also, concerningly, a number of people saying that they'll be cutting back even on necessities. In fact, the numbers, show that 60% of respondents to that Debt Rescue SA survey are saying that they will cut their clothing budget, and 38% say that they will buy less food. Absolutely concerning. You can share your experiences of coping. It's after December. It's now January, and we're now getting into the new year. How are you handling your finances, and how are you dealing with debt and coping with the escalating costs of goods and services in our economy? 7 a.m., let's check in with N. Musa now with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, ANC to reconfigure 2 provincial leaderships, and Trump signs order to withdraw US from Paris Climate Agreement. Good morning. The ANC Secretary-General, Fikile Mbalula, says he will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committees on the decision to reconfigure them. The ANC has decided to reconfigure the 2 provincial leaderships within the framework of the party's constitution. Mbalula says this means that some NEC members will be deployed to beef up the administration of the party in the 2 provinces.
I will write to every branch, to every province, inform them about the decision and the fact that they must wait till we come back to them. And when we come back to them on the ground next week, all regions, all branches, they will be briefed and they will be told about how reconfiguration is unfolding, and also in the context of the ANC constitution. Up until then, hold the horses. But the decision is taken, is done, and we finished, and that is what I'm explaining to you. What is the decision? So we're all there, and the president presented the decision to the meeting, and the meeting clapped hands, and everybody left and went home.
Northern Cape Police have arrested 12 suspects during Operation Valamgodi over the past weekend. 4 suspects were arrested on charges of illegal mining and trespassing in Kleinzie. Meanwhile, in Barkley West in the Francisbaard district, 5 suspects were arrested on charges of contravening the Immigration Act and being in possession of ammunition. Provincial Police spokesperson Molefe Simelane says they also arrested 3 suspects on drug-related crimes in various parts of the province.
The police seized equipment suspected to be used in the commission of illicit mining and bags containing possible suspected diamond-bearing material. In Francisbaard, members receive information about illegal activities taking place at identified locations in Bartley West. The police pounced and arrested 5 undocumented persons between the ages of 26 and 47-year-old, as well as the seizure of ammunition.
The Gauteng Department of Education says they will be in a position to determine how many learners will not be returning to schools in 10 days' time. Parents and guardians have been queuing at different centres across the province, hoping that their children will be placed in their preferred schools. They say they are now pinning their hopes on the 10-day waiting period. The department spokesperson, Steve Mabona.
What's likely to change is the numbers. You will know how many children are not coming back in a school because we'll give them 10 days. We call it 10 days head count. After 10 school days, we will be in a position to count on how many children will not be coming to a school.
The Airports Company South Africa has assured the public efforts are underway to ensure the continued supply of jet fuel at the OR Tambo International Airport east of Johannesburg. AXA says the current fuel reserves are forecast to last just over 7 days following a fire at the National Petroleum Refiners of South Africa refinery earlier this month. Nozipo Khadebe reports.
AXA says it is collaborating with various stakeholders to prevent any disruptions in February. In a statement, it says airlines and suppliers are exploring alternative measures such as tankering or refueling at other airports to manage fuel needs. Meanwhile, some airlines have raised concerns that their suppliers are restricting them and that they are not able to secure enough fuel to get them to their next destinations. As a result, they've started making alternative plans to make fuel stops at other airports.
Further afield, and finally, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a number of executive orders yesterday, among them withdrawing the United States from the Paris Climate Change Accord and pardoning 1,500 criminal defendants charged in the 2021 January 6th attack on the U.S. Congress. Sharon Bryce Peace reports.
President Trump confirmed that he was issuing pardons for nearly all January 6 offenders while commuting the sentences of 6 supporters convicted in the attack on the U.S. Congress after Trump's false claims of a rigged election. The pardons could see those incarcerated released imminently, some who were serving hefty sentences for violent attacks on law enforcement protecting the Capitol precinct that day. This came after former President Joe Biden issued preemptive pardons for members of his family and members of the January 6 committee, among others. The White House is also expected to inform the UN of its decision to withdraw from the Global Climate Pact.
Recapping the top story, ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula says he will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committees on the decision to reconfigure them. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, to save money, you could cut back on your child's birthday party pack goodies, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash, and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
And if you're just joining us, a reminder, it's really heavily backed up around the Randburg area today. Malabongwe westbound, the ramp to the M1 North is closed, and that's causing all sorts of chaos. On top of that ramp close, you've got traffic lights down around that region from Stratham Park right through North Riding. So any motorists that are sort of coming out, realising the ramp is closed and having to push through to the, well, you've got no lights at the M1 bridge, and then having to push through to President Forshire and no traffic lights there. So it really is quite chaotic. There's a lot of traffic. avoiding the chaos on Malabongwe and diverting sort of back routes through North Riding. So although the issue is at the N1 ramp from Malabongwe, there is a lot of sizable congestion building right through that area. Other issues this morning, the N3 North pretty heavily backed into Galulis, coming up from Alberton and Germiston. Pressure on the N12 and R24 routes into Galulis as well. Both of those routes looking fairly heavily jammed up. Durban breakdown before Spaghetti Junction, N2 South backing from Umgena Road. M7 was dreadful into Pinetown yesterday, dreadful again this morning. And Cape Town, Baden-Powell under thick sand. You may find yourself being officially taken off by traffic authorities to stand at Monwabisi and possibly even worse at Coastal Park. There's quite a big queue of traffic on the Baden-Powell coming to Strandfontein Road, which suggests maybe traffic authorities are diverting things from there, but you should really be avoiding Baden-Powell this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Cricket action. The South Africa Under-19 women delivered a commanding performance against the Samoa Under-19 women in their second match of the ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup. And in soccer action, Chelsea beating Wolves to end a 5-game winless run. Details around 7:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Hey, good morning, folks. We are into the second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. It is good to be in your company this morning. Let me tell you what's coming up. We'll focus a bit on the issue of youth employment and the pathways to some level of experience that were being provided by what is known as the Basic Education Employment Initiative. It's part of the Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, and basically it involved, getting young people to assist in schools. But there's concern that the funding needed to make it sustainable and to actually expand it and continue to take in these young people to gain their first ever work experience, that funding doesn't seem to be forthcoming amidst all the issues around budgets that we've been talking about. So we've got that conversation lined up for you and how that is impacting our already dire youth unemployment picture. Then, of course, I did touch on this a bit earlier on court interpretation services. It's a segue and a feature that we thought we should just do for you in light of the processes that many of us have been watching play themselves out in public, be it court processes in the form of trials, high-profile trials, as well as the Judicial Conduct Tribunal, of course, that is underway, where translation services have been needed. A lot of people have been fans of the translation services provided and lauded how well it is being done, but you have heard some murmurs of discontent about the quality and accuracy of some of the translations, and it's got me wondering about what is the impact in terms of access to justice and fair trial, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. We have that conversation coming up for you within this half hour, as well as that conversation that I highlighted a bit earlier on about what seems to be a tug of war, really, that is brewing around the legal sector codes that were published by the Minister for Trade and Industry and Competition, Park Stawu, in September last year. And it's got me thinking broadly about broad-based black economic empowerment, which has its foundations, let there be no doubt about that, it has its foundations in the mandate from the Constitution. But does bad implementation of a constitutionally mandated, program, does it invalidate the constitutional legitimacy of that program? That's the question. And can triple BEE be better tweaked and somehow repurposed such that we achieve what the Constitution has commissioned of us as a society, and do it in a way that is sort of proper and productive and helps all of us. Weigh in on these and other issues. The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes on 061 410 4107. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The second hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Specsavers now looks after your hearing as well as your vision with Specsavers Audiology. With 60 stores and counting, we are South Africa's largest audiology group. For a limited time only, buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. You heard right. Buy one rechargeable hearing aid and get 50% off the second. Find your nearest store at specsavers.co.za. Specsavers Audiology. Test your hearing and join the conversation. T's and C's apply.
I feel great. I feel nice.
Kasha, what's the goal? We're quelling on the highest, the summer level. What are we? Skim some. What's the qua? How you go make his squat for Lieto? That far of that Nandi summer content. Charlie says the girl must vuma. It's the go on SABC Plus. Don't miss Skim some at 7:30 weekdays only on SABC 1. Zanti for sure.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
This January, to save money, you could turn off the lights, the house lights, and use your cell phone's flashlight. Or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash. And make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
The only talk radio morning breakfast show that makes sense. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's start with this story then. The Basic Education Employment Initiative, which advertised work opportunities for 245,000 young people across 23,000 schools in 2023, has not yielded the desired results, we are told. This is according to Youth Capital, which says over 1.5 million young people had applied for opportunities when the initiative was announced. The Youth Empowerment Organization says the funds for the program have not been released since 2023. Let's speak now to Nape Sinong, who is the mobilizer strategist at Youth Capital, which is a campaign advocating for policy change to solve unemployment. Good morning to you, Nape, and thank you for your time. So, this was in 2023, the figures that we are citing. What's been the status of this Basic Education Employment Initiative since then? Sorry, Nape, let me ask you to start again. What's the status of this initiative since these figures that I was quoting from 2023?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Thank you for having us on the show. What's going on with the current, actually, we sort of are in limbo at the moment with the BEI, the Basic Education Employment Initiative, what is usually called the School Assistance Program, because last year we had written to the UIF, and the UIF was supposed to release the fund. The presidency and the Department of Basic Education got into an agreement that the program last year was going to be subsidized by funds from the UIF, because the UIF had a surplus of funds and they were going to redirect those funds into this program. However, that did not happen last year, meaning that the program was not rolled out last year. And as you mentioned, more than 245,000 young people were denied a work opportunity, and 23,000 schools that we know already are under quite difficult conditions were denied this extra resource to have young people there to assist in admin, to assist the teachers in teaching, and also to have general school assistants there. So at the moment, the program is on hold. We do not know. We wrote to the UIF because they were the ones that were supposed to release the funds now. We still did not have, we still don't have any responses from the UIF commissioner. And also we went to multiple media platforms advocating for these funds to be released, and still nothing. We hope that this year things will be different.
Within the context of our unemployment crisis, Nape, and how it manifests among the youth, why is this a program that's worth fighting for? Why is it worth you guys taking up the mantle to say you will ensure that it is funded properly? What difference does it make?
So generally, in a space like ours, in a job market like South Africa, where the private sector fails to demand to create more jobs or fails to absorb young people into more jobs, public employment programs like this become really, really vital because they stimulate labor demand, in these situations where the market really fails to generate, sufficient employment for young people. So programs like this are really, really important in ensuring that young people gain that first-hand meaningful job experience, because research says that if you have a meaningful first-hand job experience, you're more likely to be employed in the future, because we're in a situation where young people are saying that I cannot get a job because employers say I don't have experience. So this kind of initiatives help young people to gain that experience that can pivot them into pathways to earn money or pathways to find meaningful work later on in their lives.
Yeah, all right. Thank you for that, Nape Sinong, who is the mobilizer strategist at Youth Capital. An important issue in the current context. We keep crying about budget cuts, left, right, and center. This is just one of those that is being highlighted by the organization Youth Capital.
Owning a small or medium-sized business takes courage, skill, and determination. The Clientele Legal Business Plan is there to protect, guide, and assist your business in managing the legal risks. Let us handle your labor matters, employment contracts, CCMA referrals, and so much more. Our team of professional lawyers are standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 42770. That's SAFM to 42770. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This summer, we celebrate 30 years of democracy with 30 Winds of Change on Sundays at 9:30 p.m. on SABC2, a tribute to the heroes who shaped our nation. Join us as we reflect on our country's journey with the likes of Advocate Thuli Madonsela, Mfundi Vundla, Chief Justice Mogoeng, Helen Ziller, and many more. 30 Winds of Change, 30 years of progress, one powerful story. Download SABC Plus and stream your favorite shows anytime from anywhere. Ritswari Vibe, only on SABC2.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's turn to the story now. The quality of court translation services can contribute significantly to how a trial unfolds. Popular court events such as the Judicial Conduct Tribunal into Eastern Cape Judge President Selbie Mbenenge and the Senzo Meyiwa trial have shone the spotlight on the importance of quality, accurate and reliable translation services in the country's courts. Some South Africans have raised questions about whether the current levels of translation and interpretation in the country support the right to a fair trial for accused persons. Let's bring this issue, take this issue forward with Julius Dantile, who is the Executive Head of Languages at the Pan South African Language Board. Good morning to you, Mr. Dantile, and thank you for your time. Is this an actual issue, or am I making an issue out of nothing here? The quality of court interpretation services based anecdotally on what we've observed in these high-profile processes. Is this something that comes up in the work that you do?
Thank you. Morning, Mr. Simelane, and to SAFM listeners. Let me start with the Italian phrase that says, traditore, which translates that a translator is a traitor. In the sense that it is very difficult to take certain cultural permutations from one cultural one culture to another, because sometimes these equivalents do not exist in another language. The second point is that to come to the point of courts are transmitters of a legal process, and which is also embedded on the cultures that are tested within that particular court. Now, what do I mean by the cultures? Because the law of any country is based on a particular culture. It can be a culture, for instance, our constitutional law in South Africa is based on particular culture that we're trying to forge as a country that embraces diverse cultures that exist within the country. Now, that creates certain challenges when interpreting is provided in court, where there is an instant transfer of message from one language to another, from the listener, from the speaker, the sender, to the receiver, which is the listener. Now, that channel in between sometimes become problematic, which is the interpreter and the interpreting, depending on the skill, the competency of that particular individual. But also, what is critical, we must understand, is that the interpreters are not interpreters of law. They are interpreters of a language. They are taking one message in context, and I want to emphasize the context, in context of what is happening in the court proceedings. So for me, as an outsider, it may be easy to judge that the interpreter is not saying what the other person is saying. However, if you are not there in that particular context, you have all the time to interpret and to think about what is the meaning of this particular phrase or sentence given by the sender on the other side. But the interpreter that is there doesn't have that leverage.
They have to do it instantaneously. So tell me, do you work with the Department of Justice and the Office of the Chief Justice to try and, I don't know, in terms of training, the quality of training provided, where does that stand at the moment in terms of ensuring that all these issues that you've highlighted are factored in such that the quality and accuracy is improved?
Yes, we do work with the Department of Justice. We had several meetings with them. We have participated in some of their interpreting conferences where they look at these particular issues, and we provide, as the South African Language Board, advice. So, including training, including the professionalization of this particular profession. Remember where it comes from. It comes from the colonial and apartheid era, whereby one and what is being said by the other side, and therefore I can interpret, or people that were brought up in areas where these different languages are spoken, and then they say that they can interpret and then send the message. But then the nuances that are required and the techniques that are required to really transmit an accurate message, they become a problem because this person is not trained in really bringing those particular nuances, the tonations and all that. Because in one language, you may say, for instance, in Xhosa, the same word written in the same way may have different meanings depending on tonation. So you must understand the cultural nuances from one language to another language. Then in most cases, something that I want us to talk to is the issue that our courts have declared to be working in English, which then is unconstitutional. Because the first test is whether those who are participants in the court process can speak the same language.
All right, no, let's leave it there for now. But thank you for weighing in on this conversation. We've certainly gotten it started. That's Julius Dantile, who is Executive Head of Languages at the Pan-South African Language Board.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
So let me turn to this now. Some black legal practitioners say they are shocked by the application by Norton Rose Fulbright to block the BBBE Legal Sector Code. The newly introduced code is an attempt by government to address racial discrimination and to foster black ownership in the legal sector. Basadi Bamulao, a non-profit organization dedicated to promoting equality for black legal practitioners, says the legal sector sector needs to transform. Let's speak now to Kathleen Matolo-Dlepu, who is from Basadi Bamulawu. Thank you for joining us this morning, and thank you for your time. So just this was gazetted by Minister Pakstow in September last year. Are you surprised that it is subject to a challenge at this stage by Norton Rose Fulbright?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. We are definitely surprised that Norton Rose can actually challenge the legal sector code so vigorously. For us, the people, they profess to be the proponent of transformation, but challenging the legal sector code, it means whatever they're saying is not true. They are not promoting transformation.
So what of their argument that says the codes as they stand are not practical and cannot be implemented within the time frames? Certainly if we confine ourselves around the issues of ownership, what needs to happen within the space of ownership, calling for over a 5-year period, ownership must increase to 50% by black owners or historically disadvantaged, with women increasing to 25% and the likes.
I do not think that the targets are impossible. The people who have been, the BE code, triple BE has been in operation for the past 20 years, and they have been subjected to be a triple BE. Obviously, it was comfortable for them not to have to deal with the issues of ownership and black women ownership. When you look at the stats now, the present stats, it shows that we have females attorneys, for instance, it's about 15,260, and males are 18,425. The stats tells us a different story. So definitely they have to comply with the legal sector code, because the legal sector is evolving. Women are becoming more, and basically they have to comply.
And the other aspect that it talks to is the workflow, the flow of work and briefing patterns. And that's been something that you've been concerned about for quite some time. How will the implementation, because, they're supposed to be implemented by now, how will the implementation of the legal sector codes help to remedy that situation?
Remember, the legal sector code is introducing a legal sector council. The legal sector council is meant to monitor the application and that the firms actually comply with the sector code. The legal sector council is supposed to report to the BEE Commission yearly. So there will be a monitoring mechanism to make sure that the government, the state-owned enterprises, every sector of the government complies with the legal sector code.
But what are we trying to fix? What is the current situation? It's easy for us to say briefing patterns are skewed, the workflow is not constant and regular, it doesn't support. But what do we mean? What are the manifestations of that? How do we see that as ordinary South Africans?
The manifestation of that, it comes from the old era of South Africa, the apartheid era, and they were empowered. The firms, the white colleagues were empowered by their own government, the apartheid government, and they were empowered to the exclusion of black practitioners. So for them, it's still comfortable to be in the state, for the status quo to persist, because they get almost all the work from the state, all the work from the private sector. The private sector does not even attempt to address the issues of transformation. So they benefit on both sides.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it there for now. It's an absolutely important conversation. We will continue having it. That's Kathleen Matolo-Dlepu, who is co-director from Basadi Bamulawu, bringing us to a point where we must now check in with N. Musa with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, Transport Minister Barbara Creecy says pedestrian fatalities on South Africa's roads remain a major concern. This follows an increase in road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season, with pedestrians accounting for 41% of the deaths. The ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal provincial executive committees on the decision to reconfigure them. And in one of the executive orders, US President Donald Trump has declared a national energy emergency. He has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Very chaotic conditions around Malabongwe Drive and the N1 out at Randburg. The ramp from Malabongwe West remains closed due to yesterday's truck crash awaiting recovery. A load of traffic lights out from Stratham Park through the highway up into North Riding, so that's complicating matters. And Malabongwe westbound being really hard, eastbound, I beg your pardon, coming from North Riding down towards the highway. Very heavy. If you've got to get from Randburg to the highway, I would suggest you try William Mandela, go out through sort of Bryanston area, get up onto the highway at William Mandela. That's flowing normally. The whole Malabongwe bridge system is really very messy. Joburg N3, Germiston through Edenvale looking fairly heavy. Durban a crash, N2 south at Spaghetti Junction, delays pushing back through Inanda Road. A breakdown on the N2 north at Spaghetti Junction causing delays from the M7. And the M4 coming through Jacobs Clarewood pretty heavily back this morning on your way up towards the M7 highway off-ramp. That's Durban bound. Cape Town, Baden-Powell, thick sand at Khayelitsha and thick sand at Coastal Park on the Muizenberg side. You may well find yourself being taken off and diverted around that sandy condition. And the highways around Cape Town just generally busy. Don't leave it too long to get out and about this morning. It's a busy set of conditions right across the Cape Town region. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey, good morning to you once again, Zai. I knew about Samoa playing rugby. I didn't know that they play cricket as well. When I think Samoa, I think rugby. You know?
Me too.
The haka.
Yeah. And maybe a rain dance or two.
Suddenly cricket. But you know what? It's going to be very tough for them because they debut at this tournament that's the 2025 ICC Under-19 Women's T20 World Cup. They made their debut to us for all the wrong reasons. So maybe it's the only way up for them is up, hopefully, because I tell you what, the junior Proteas women making a massive statement. They stormed into the Super 6 stage with that win over Samoa, bowling them out for just 16 runs, the lowest ever score in tournament history. South Africa cruised to a 10-wicket victory in just 1.4 overs. And Thabising Nene was the star of the show, taking 3 wickets for just 4 runs. The Proteas will next face Nigeria in a top-of-the-group decider, while Nigeria, they went on to stun New Zealand in a thrilling 2-run win, adding even more drama to the tournament. More cricket. The Paarl Royals have climbed to the top of the SA20 standings with a clinical 6-wicket victory over the Joburg Super Kings at Boland Park. Chasing 147s, the Royals got off to a fiery start, but they were held back by Hardus Viljoen, who grabbed 2 for 23. However, a solid 71-run partnership between Mitchell van Buren and Captain David Miller steadied the ship, Miller finishing unbeaten on 40 off 32 balls to seal the win with 5 balls to spare. Earlier, the Super Kings were reeling at 36 for 4 before Johnny Bairstow's 60 of 40 balls and Donovan Ferreira's unbeaten 32 lifted them to 146 for 6. Royal spinner Bjorn Fontaine was instrumental, sparking the collapse with a sharp spell up front.
I think just doing the simple things well. If you look at the past, we've had quite explosive players. Sometimes they come off, sometimes they don't. There's been a lot more consistency this year in terms of executing what we want to execute and planning from that point of view. So I think just doing the simple things well and playing well at home as well contributes a big part to that.
Moving out to soccer, Chelsea, they shrugged off a howler from goalkeeper Robert Sanchez to beat relegation-threatened Wolves 3-1, ending a 5-game winless run to climb back into the Premier League's top 4. Enzo Maresca's team were just 2 points behind leaders Liverpool in mid-December, raising hopes of an unlikely title challenge before losing their way. Now they're back on track to qualify for next season's Champions League. Elsewhere, Liverpool head coach Arne Slot is unsure how much benefit there will be to finishing top of the Champions League table.
Being on top maybe doesn't tell you that you're the best team. Being number 24 doesn't tell you that you're number 24 in terms of quality. It's a lot of has to do with the teams you've faced. So yeah, we want to win, but not from an idea about that will probably give us then the best lead up for the rest of the campaign.
And finally, athletics. South Africa's 100-meter hurdles champion Marianne Fourie broke the South African indoor record in the 60-meter hurdles with her winning time of 7.91 seconds in the heats in Luxembourg yesterday. She won the final in a time of 7.98 seconds. Both her times are faster than the previous record that was set by Rikenet Steenkamp in 2020. That's a wrap of your sport. More top of the hour. I am Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Good morning to you once again in Dowling. I suspect I have asked you before who Trustco are, so I'm not going to ask you again. Tell me about their plans to delist from the JSE and the Namibian Stock Exchange.
Investment holding company Trustco is planning on ditching smaller equity markets to compete with the big dogs. Now the group says it'll delist from the JSE, the Namibian Stock Exchange, and the US OTCQX. The group aims to upgrade its primary listing to the NASDAQ Stock Exchange, having submitted an application on the 11th of November last year. The company's shares, currently valued at around 316 million rands on the JSE, will likely be suspended from trading while the delisting process is underway. Trustco's management will engage with the JSE regarding the formal delisting process. Now, the investment group's portfolio spans various sectors, including insurance, real estate, commercial banking, microfinance, education, and mining. The company has been working to resolve audit complexities which have delayed the release of its latest financial results. The results, initially due last month, are now expected by the 31st of January. So Trustco has been also involved in a long-running battle with the JSE over accounting decisions, which led to a suspension of its shares in November 2022. The company eventually restated its financials in February 2023 and was publicly censured by the JSE later this year. That year. Now, the proposed delisting is part of Trustco's strategy to access deeper pools of capital in the U.S. market. The company has already secured a commitment from the Risk of its Value Fund, a U.S.-based fund, to invest up to $100 million in hybrid capital.
In industry news, Ndawleng, tell us about analysts being upbeat about the local property sector. What's behind that?
So those analysts saying that the industry is poised for growth, with local real estate investment trusts, also known as REITs, expected to deliver strong income returns of 8 to 9% this year. It's driven by improved occupancy and rental growth, as well as potential for more interest rate cuts. Now, this forecast comes after an upbeat 2024 performance where SA REITs outperformed most asset classes with a 35.8% return compared to a 13.4% returns on broader equity markets and 17.2% for bond markets, rather. Now, the head of listed property at Merchant West Investments, Ian Anderson, noted that dividend stability and growth will be key drivers of REIT performance in 2025, while dividends declined by 1.7% in 2024 due to higher borrowing costs and inflation-driven expenses. Anderson expects dividends to rise this year, supporting further sector recovery. The outlook for SA REITs is also influenced by global developments, including potential tariffs from the US and shifts in rate sentiment. However, Anderson remains optimistic about local prospects, citing the narrowing of discounts to portfolio values since late 2023 as a reflection of improved market confidence and stronger valuations. The pace and scale of interest rate cuts will be an important factor for the sector this year, as lower borrowing costs can boost property valuations and income growth.
All right, lastly, Ndawleng, please give us another roundup of market activity.
So kicking things off in Asia, markets trading mixed Traders reacting to U.S. President Donald Trump's inaugural address. Risk, however, still remains as many seek clarity on Trump's new policies. With that, the Hong Kong Hang Seng is up 1.1%, while the Japanese Nikkei trades pretty flat, rising a tepid 0.08%. In Wall Street, futures are in the green. Traders will be digesting commentary following Trump's address yesterday, as well as eyeing earnings out from Netflix out later today as well. And here at home, sentiment mixed with trade choppy. The all share closed flat in yesterday's trading session, up a tepid 0.04%. The rand, in the meantime, making gains, trading at 18.50 to the dollar.
Always with her eye on the money, that's Ntauleng Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you just before the resumption of trade on the JSE. That's after 8:30 here on The Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's turn now to Advocate Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. So all eyes are on Davos, Switzerland, and it's always a stage for global leaders, including African leaders, to stake their claim on the international stage. Tell me about how the African collective is going to be participating at Davos.
A global meeting of bankers, of economists, and also when you look at the question of this Africa Collective, which is almost a year old, but it was initiated in 2020 during the COVID-19 situation. Now, the theme for this year, the main running theme will be collaboration in the intelligent age. But we know that the Africa Collective is looking at what they are saying, consolidation to drive the global Africa agenda. These are the issues that Thulas will be touching on: industrialization, infrastructure, investment, issues of how do you drive innovative capacity through partnerships. We have seen President Ramaphosa has already jetted to Davos with a group of ministers, Thulas, where they will also be engaging in this forum. Africa Continental Free Trade, Wamkelemene is also leading in this task of the World Economic Forum, which is almost at its 55th year.
And then back on the continent, Sipho, tell me about, Uganda. Isn't it that you vote when you turn 18, or is it different in Uganda?
Uganda is quite different, coming from the chairperson of the Electoral Commission and raising the issue of voter registration logistics here, that the young people who will turn 18 after the 10th of February 2025 will not be eligible to vote in the 2026 general election. And that has caused tension in terms of opposition parties claiming that that will be to deny the right to vote of these young people. But the chairperson, talking to the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee in the Parliament this week, Thulas, emphasized the question of that they are not even dealing with voter suppression. It is based on operational requirements. One will have said that there might be court cases that will be led by opposition, considering those elections are only in 2026.
Yeah, that's what puzzles me. So if you turn 18 on the 11th of February 2025, it doesn't matter. You will not vote in 2026.
Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Tell me about Kenya sending more of its police officers to Haiti. That shows their commitment to this cause, right?
It is showing commitment. This is a UN-backed force that was also sent. I mean, Kenya promised to send 1,000 and they sent 600. And now they have sent 217 of their police officers to Haiti as part of the multinational force to deal with the gang violence that is in Haiti. Interestingly, we know that the U.S. has been backing them. We don't know with Donald Trump 2.0, will he support the mission of the U.S. in terms of supporting this multinational support force in Haiti. There have been more numbers of Thulas if you look at the gang violence in Haiti, people leaving their homes. So it is a concern, but it seems Ruto is working towards peacekeeping in the Caribbean.
And in Mozambique, away from the main story of the political tensions, there are also issues of governance. This issue around the 9 million meticash that, accountability is being demanded for.
That is quite true, and this is coming from the teachers that have been going on a go-slow. Remember that there was no examination that were even conducted in Mozambique last month due to the post-election crisis. Now it has affected the education system to a point that you need to sit what you call special exams.
Now they are saying they've asked for access to information to ask what has happened to that 9 million metric tons, which is almost equivalent to $141,000 at the current exchange rate in Mozambique. And this Thulas has also threatened that they are not going to undertake these special exams if they are not being paid their overtime work for the past 3 years that is being owned by government. So here we're talking of 35,000 young people, Thulas, will be affected by this national strike by the teachers in Mozambique.
Lastly, Sipho, in your historical archives, 21 January 1987, yet again a painful chapter in our history.
Absolutely, Thulas, 38 years ago, and this involved the UDF affiliated organization called Kwamakuta Youth League, that there was an attack by the apartheid government that was using by then what we call the third force, Thulas, killing almost 18 people, including 7 children, in a house in Kwamakuta, KwaZulu-Natal. You remember the TRC files, Thulas, 30 years ago in 1995. This matter was brought forth. It will include Eugene de Kock, it will include General Magnus Malan, how they were involved in this tension that they were creating between the ANC and ISP and bringing the UDF affiliate, like I've mentioned, the KwaZulu-Natal Youth League, Kwamakuta, they were the targets to be attacked on that day. As you say, it was a painful history, but that's how we reflect on our historical archive. Asante sana, Thulas.
Thank you for that. That's Sipho Mantula there with your Africa update and just giving you a flavor and a sampling of some of the key issues developing on the continent and its diaspora.
We definitely know what good insurance is. Our insurance don't delay when it comes to any claims. If something happens to one of our vehicles on the road, service delivery is the main thing.
They make sure that you are a satisfied customer from the beginning to the end.
It's definitely a win-win with our insurance.
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online. Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's talk. Let me take one or two of your calls this morning. Let me start with Advocate Bomela, who is in Bloemfontein. Good morning to you, Advocate. You want to talk to me about the issue of interpretation services in courts?
Yes, morning, Thulasizwe. Morning to your listeners as well. I also want to first congratulate you, man, on your attainment of your LLB.
Oh, thank you.
I've been waiting for that application for you.
Pupillage is hard.
Anyway, to us, the issue of firstly, it's in interpretation services, not translation.
Yes.
Because translation, you would know, it comes when the trial or the inquiry is done. Then you translate the proceedings. Using translation services which are certified to do so. But why interpretation? It's critical in the sense that, as you correctly diagnosing it, it goes to the heart of the trial, whether it is fair or it is not fair. There's a plethora of authority in that regard. But it doesn't start there. It really starts with the person who constitutes that inquiry or that court, depending on, number one, the subject matter of that inquiry itself, and the witnesses that are involved in that inquiry. And that determines another aspect, issue of race, issue of gender. The reason for that is simply, you would understand legally, things you consider is actually also the bone and morale of that society. In other words, how things are done in that specific society. People would understand the ethos of that society. So that interpreter who then is going to come in will be able to understand the language of the area, because a lot can be coded in the language of the area. So if you don't understand the language of the area, many things will be lost in the translation. But
absolutely.
Equally so, the person who drives that inquiry, in other words, as an example, the inquiry that currently is looking at the issues of the church in the Eastern Cape, the leader itself should understand those issues. So the constitution and the selection of that person becomes very, very critical, because that person then is the one who will also determine the interpretation that comes in, because they are able to then guide and say, but that was not what they witnessed.
Absolutely. Advocate Bomela, thank you so much for your insights from lived experience. That's Advocate Bomela there, who is out in Bloemfontein. We take a quick traffic update and back with more of your calls in a moment.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's still very heavy around the Malabongwe Drive N1 highway. A truck overturning yesterday, blocking Malabongwe West from entering the N1 to go north. So just playing out with heavy delays through the area there. The R21 has roadworks back this morning up at Olifantsfontein. If you're leaving the airport en route to Pretoria, it's slow. Durban, heavy around Spaghetti Junction. It's a crash going southbound, so delays coming from Inanda. A breakdown going north, so delays from the M7. And a lot of traffic bypassing all of that, jamming routes like Umgena Road and Alpine Road locally. And then Cape Town, two hold-ups on the N1 driving out of town. A crash at Plattekloof Road. That's pushing traffic back through towards sort of the Monte Vista area. And if you're on your way into Cape Town on the big volume side of the N1, a crash at Kuba, get a change with a queue right back as far as Belleville. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Don't wake up to less money or no money in your account. Add an extra layer of security for unusual transactions. Nominate a trusted person on the Standard Bank banking app. If something seems off, they can decline transactions for you, even while you sleep. Get trusted person on your banking app today. Visit our help center on the banking app to learn more. Another lesson to #BeatTheScam. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Let me take a call from Pule in Matlosana. Good morning to you, Pule. Also talking issues of the Senzo Meyiwa trial this morning.
Yes, how are you?
Very well, how are you?
All right, man. Compliments. Look, I've been following up in this case for years, even at the time of the previous judge. But let me bring this disclaimer. There's an evidence before court that Kelly Khumalo was the trigger puller in this matter, and she
allegedly,
she orchestrated the Brigadier Kidinda confirmed when he was asked about this matter and confirmed that it's Kelly who organized the assassination of Senzo Meyiwa. But Kelly's not on the box.
Yep.
Why is Kelly not on the box to come and answer?
Yep.
What precisely happened? And there's evidence that Kelly was communicating with people when they were in prison.
Yeah.
Why is Kelly Khumalo? What is the law saying if they discover that I orchestrated, I planned the killing of Christian?
Yeah.
Then I'm not in the box. Two, the interference of the judge. The judge said, no, he's got the right to do it. Sometimes he will weaken the defense and put the version of the weakness in a manner that it weakens the defense. When the defense make a follow-up, you will say, no, I understood it this way. Then he said, it's what you say. And asking Brigadier, the Brigadier said, no, it's what I'm putting it right when the weakness made a mistake. But you interject and interfere and say, but no, I understand it's different.
Yeah.
It's how the judge are intervening in the case, putting a vision that weakened the defense.
All right, Pule, let's leave it there. But I do want to say that in as far as the Kelly Khumalo aspect of what Pule was saying there, I've also wondered why, and my approach to it is not to make a finding, because I'm in no position to make a finding whether or not Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind in the Senzo Meyiwa trial. I absolutely am not in a position to. But because of what has been said about her in court, I don't know, somehow to me it just feels like even for fairness to her, she should be provided the opportunity to respond to the charges against her. Right now, things are said about her in court. Every now and then it comes up, and she's not even in the room to say, hey, hang on, I've got a version. So in a way, I just feel like there's something just I don't understand about how that matter is being prosecuted. And that whole issue of joinder, joining people and saying that you are part of the same, common purpose, and therefore you'll be charged together. It feels like an incomplete story when you keep telling us that this was a plot and these were the people involved, but one of them, you're not bringing them to court. And I wonder why the prosecution decided to go with it in that way. Zola in Bloemfontein, good morning. You want to talk to me about interpretation in courts?
Good morning, Thulas. Thulas, I want to echo the sentiments of Advocate Bomela.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked in court for many years as an interpreter, and then later on I also went to CCMA, but now at another level, at a higher level. It's very true to say that when you are an interpreter, you need to understand the local township lingo. You cannot take an interpreter from Mafeking who speaks Tswana in Mafeking and bring him or her to Bloemfontein and think that he or she will be a good interpreter. That person must understand what kind of Tswana Bloemfontein people are speaking. Just like you cannot take someone from Umlazi who had to make a SOH and think that he would be best, because the township lingua differs, also the flightal, the social that they speak, the body language. So as an interpreter, you need to understand those things, and also the legal terminology, how the court interprets. You need to know what to say to the witness or to the accused, what the court says. And you interpret everything. As an interpreter, you don't engage in a private conversation with the witness or accused. You tell the court everything that the person says, because you are not presiding over the matter, but it is the court which is presiding.
So let me take advantage of the fact that I'm talking to you, Zola. Is there a requirement in the work that you guys do that you should interpret literally, as opposed to actually the person might be saying haini, but they're not saying no in the plural as in no. They're saying haini, it's an exclamation, but the interpretation will then say it means no in the plural.
No, but you are correct. You must interpret it in the right. If you say hain but not saying no, tell the court the way you understand in that local language. Like, for instance, in Bloemfontein, when they say there, they say car. In Mafeking, they say fali.
Sure.
So you have to interpret accordingly, so that even the accused or the witness must understand what you are telling the court.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, an innocent man may be convicted, a criminal may go out of, may be set free.
Well, thank you for that, Zola. I appreciate your insights from lived experience. That's Zola there in Bloemfontein. And that brings us to 8 a.m. Let's check in with N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. Now that's good news.
In our top stories, pedestrian deaths remain a major concern and Trump to declare a national energy emergency. Good morning. Transport Minister Barbara Creecy says pedestrian fatalities on the country's roads remain a major concern. This follows an increase in road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season, with pedestrians accounting for 41% of the deaths. A total of 1,502 people have died. Creecy released the preliminary 2024-2025 festive season figures at a media briefing in Pretoria.
41%, or almost half of all road fatalities, are pedestrians. The highest percentage of pedestrian fatalities is in the big urban centres of Gauteng, Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. Gauteng had the highest pedestrian fatality rate at 63%, followed by Western Cape at 53% and KwaZulu-Natal at 44%.
The 5 people arrested for the murder of a police officer in Imalo, Mpumalanga, have been remanded in custody. They were arrested after Lieutenant Colonel Piet Pretorius was shot and killed last week. He was ambushed and the state vehicle he was travelling in was found riddled with bullets. The matter has been postponed to Monday next week. Mpumalanga Hawk spokesperson Manguseni Nkosi says the motive behind the killing of the officer is yet to be established.
The team managed to get information together whereby we tracked the vehicle or we tracked the suspects down in Alspruit some few hours later. Then the 5 suspects were arrested, of which out of the 5 suspects we have got 4 guys. One of the guys is a former police official, and the 5th suspect is a lady. So they did appear in magistrate court. 4 suspects have got the legal reps, and the 4th suspect doesn't have the legal reps. So the case has to be postponed for him to access the legal representatives.
ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula says he will soon inform the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Executive Committees on the decision to reconfigure them. The ANC has decided to reconfigure the 2 provincial leaderships within the framework of the party's constitution. Mbalula says this means that some NEC members will be deployed to beef up the administration of the party in the 2 provinces.
I will write to every branch, to every province, inform them about the decision and the fact that they must wait till we come back to them. And when we come back to them on the ground next week, all regions, all branches, they will be briefed and they will be told about how reconfiguration is unfolding and also in the context of the ANC constitution. Up until then, hold the horses. But the decision is taken, is done. And we finished, and that is what I'm explaining to you. What is the decision? So we're all there, and the president presented the decision to the meeting, and the meeting clapped hands, and everybody left and went home.
Angry students from Mateo TVET College in Bloemfontein have accused the institution of withholding their results and certificates. Some of the students claim to be beneficiaries of the NSFAS bursary scheme. The students allege the TVET College advised they should pay a portion of their fees before their results are released. Here are the views of some of the frustrated students.
And I did my NCV level 4. My challenge is I was supposed to get my certificate, but I'm not getting my certificate because it shows that I owe Mateo TVET College and I was an NSFAS bursary holder. So that's my challenge. Apparently they sent a wrong course code error to NSFAS.
The issue is here, NSFAS didn't pay our tuition fee, reason being a college sent a wrong course code to them. So on our graduation we didn't get our certificates. They're claiming that we should pay that amount on our portals that we owe the institution.
And finally, in one of the executive orders, U.S. President Donald Trump has declared a national energy emergency. He has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. He has also ended the Green New Deal and revoked the electric car mandate. Trump says he wants to make America a manufacturing nation again.
Today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill. America will be a manufacturing nation once again, and we have something that no other manufacturing nation will ever have, the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we are going to use it. We will bring prices down, fill our strategic reserves up again, right to the top, and export American energy all over the world. And it is that liquid gold under our feet that will help to do it.
Recapping the top story, Transport Minister Barbara Creasy says pedestrian fatalities on the country's roads remain a major concern. This follows an increase in road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 30754 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out.
This January, to save money, you could piggyback on your friend's streaming service, or you could switch to Outsurance and save on your car insurance premium. Get a quote, and if Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash, and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP, T's and C's online.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The truck crash on Malabongwe Drive, westbound on-ramp to the M1 North, causing absolute chaos this morning. It looks like it's going to take a while to clear. They need to pick up the truck, need to pick up the load, but it's chaotic. A lot of congestion, obviously, Malabongwe at the M1 bridge, but routes through North Riding, routes down through Kelly Ridge and Bromhoff, all very heavily backed up as motorists try and escape the queues on Malabongwe and look for alternative routes. Just generally busy, actually, through that northwestern part of Joburg from Rampart Ridge, through Sharon Lee, North Riding, and right through to loads of traffic lights out again in the Four Ways area. There's also a crash on the M1 North just before Ravonia, so the highway pretty busy as well. The N14, the Krugersdorp Highway from the R55 Pretoria West exit through Bruckfontein up towards John Foster is heavy, and roadworks on the R21 at Olifantsfontein Road slowing things up as well. Durban's Spaghetti Junction, Umgena Road area easing after a breakdown and crash earlier this morning. There's a crash now on the N2 North before Kumashu Highway, so that's quite heavy. Backlogs from Queen Nundy Drive, and Cape Town, a collision on the N1 out of town at Plattercliff Road, so that's slow from Monte Vista, and it's a breakdown now on the N1 inbound before Kuburg interchange, and that section of the N1 backed up heavily from Plattercliff Hill. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
A very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, it's cricket action as we head down to Rashid Khan's MI Cape Town. They plan to outspin the Durban Super Giants, all happening at Kingsmead. And there's plenty of action as well as Chelsea, they shrugged off a howler from their goalkeeper to beat Wolves 3-1. Details around 8:30.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
9 minutes after 8 on this Tuesday. It's good to be in your company. Good morning and welcome to it. This is the third hour of the morning brief for this Tuesday, and we've had quite a number of conversations that have been on the go. Quite a bit about the interpretation services in courts and processes, because part of the privilege of being able to follow these processes, live on television is that a lot of us are taken into how the process works, and we get to observe how those processes unfold. And we've been talking a bit about the importance of interpretation services, because it does stem from the fair trial rights that are guaranteed by the Constitution in Section 35, to ensure that if you are someone who finds yourself in a spot of bother, facing charges, or your rights are at stake and you are litigating, it is absolutely important that you are able to follow what is being said, and what you are saying, is it being put through to the presiding officer in the way that it should be. And we've been wondering about the quality and accuracy at times, and the pressures that some of these interpreters find themselves working under, having to interpret instantly. They don't have the luxury of time to say, let me consult a dictionary. Interpretation in context, such that one word, what does it mean when I say sisentweni? Does it mean we are in something, we are in a thing? Or does it mean we are in a situation? Would the average person hearing that understand it as meaning we are in a situation, or would they say we are in a thing, we are in something? What does that mean? So it's an interesting side conversation that we're having off the back of some of the court processes that we've been observing. You can weigh in on that, but also feel free to add. I was listening to Fikile Mbalula. What is reconfiguration? What is reconfiguration in the context of the ANC and how it deals with problems in some of its structures? Maybe you know, I don't. First time I hear reconfiguration in the context of the provincial executive committees of the ANC in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. Share with me your reflections. Will reconfiguration help the ANC turn its fortunes around in these two provinces? The number to dial 086 000 2032, as well as your WhatsApp voice notes. Please send those to 061 410 4107. I do want to hear as well about your thoughts about broad-based black economic empowerment. Does bad implementation of what is constitutionally mandated mean that we should throw it out altogether and move on from this path? Have we achieved what the Constitution mandated us to do in as far as advancing equality through these legislative measures such as triple BEE? Weigh in on those and any other issues, as I said. This is SAFM. We are leading the conversations that move us. The third hour of the Tuesday edition of the Morning Brief starts now.
Whether you're having a morning or a morning, you woke up like this or like this. Mornings love McDonald's. So, choose happy and enjoy a short filter coffee for only R14.90 at McDonald's. What's not to?
With Outsurance Essential, you could start your new year with insurance savings on your older car. With Outsurance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. You can even top it up with motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS car to 43187. That's car to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the Morning Brief.
So let's turn to the story which has been, subject of concern for many people over the last few weeks. The National Association of Automotive Component and Allied Manufacturers says the proposed closure of ArcelorMittal's Newcastle plant could have devastating consequences for South Africa's automotive component industry. According to Renai Motelal, the CEO of the association, this decision threatens to jeopardize jobs, harm the local motor industry export capacity, and undermine efforts to localize manufacturing. The CEO now of the National Association for Automotive Component and Allied Manufacturers, Renai Motelal, joins me now to take that conversation forward. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Tell me about the strategic importance of ArcelorMittal's plant in Newcastle for your sector, and in other words, what's at stake here?
Good morning to you and your listeners. Thanks. I think what's at stake is in the very short term, there are at least 3,000 direct jobs associated with auto components that are supplied to the domestic vehicle assemblers, which make use of this special grade long steel product coming out of the ArcelorMittal plant in Newcastle. And if you can understand the importance of automotive manufacturing in the wider South African economy, in terms of its contribution to GDP, exports, employment, there's more than 100,000 direct jobs that can be found in autos manufacturing. Over the long term, if you have these kind of competitiveness losses, then you place at stake an entire industry that has been in South Africa for more than 100 years now.
And what are the longer term impacts? You talk about 3,000 jobs direct in as far as component suppliers are concerned, but what are we looking at in the medium to long term?
Yeah, so the 3,000 are immediate if they are unable to find a feasible solution to maintain some level of production. As a sector, what we require in order to put other mitigation plans in place is at least 12 months of, let's call it buffer timing and buffer stock, that component production for those lines can continue. If that does not happen, in the medium term, other components that are associated with this kind of steel production could end up also in various job loss situations. Our estimates, having conducted research with our member companies, is at least another 13,000 for the period of 2025. And then, as I said, over the longer term, the case for producing vehicles in South Africa gets less and less as we deal with some of these competitiveness challenges, whether it's the loss of a key raw material like steel, some of the logistics challenges. I don't want to paint an absolutely gloomy picture, but it is a serious situation, and one job is one job too many lost in the manufacturing sector in South Africa.
Absolutely. Not to be glib about it, Renai, but could your industry not simply get a replacement for this type of steel, or perhaps even import it?
Yeah, so I think that's where the discussion has come to, in that it's not ideal that the sector went back to work in the second week of January and then was faced with this announcement with expected closure by the end of Jan. Now, if you can understand how autos are manufactured, there's a range of approval and testing processes in place. Some of them can take anything between 12 and 24 months. So it is possible, but it's not possible in 3 weeks or 3 months, for example. What is needed is to ensure that the products coming out of Newcastle are available to the domestic sector for at least a period of a year. And then you can start looking at imported material. You can look at capacitating some of the other mini mills in South Africa to produce those specialized long products. So I think that's where a large part of the discussion that we as sector leaders have had with government partners and also the ArcelorMittal leadership. I think that's first prize, but in an ideal world, we'd like to see ongoing production of those specialized products. And on the other side of things is the more of these kind of competitive raw materials we can introduce in South Africa, the more opportunities there are for localization of other products. So there is another side to the discussion.
Paint the picture for us what the implications would be if there would be that kind of disruption to your sector. What would be the implications for our competitiveness in a sector that increasingly, we talk about South Africa assembling vehicles, but also now more and more we are talking about EVs, electric vehicles?
It's such an interesting one because I'm sure many of the listeners are not aware of this. In terms of the ArcelorMittal discussion, we actually have components that are being produced in the Eastern Cape, exported onto an EV production line in the US, one of the highest volume EV pickups in the US. And that's coming from the steel used at Oslo or produced at ArcelorMittal Newcastle. So you can see the kind of direct linkages in a practical live example. And I think to take it back to your discussion around EVs, whether it's EV, whether it's the internal combustion engine or whatever, an input material like steel will always be important for a range of components.
Yeah.
And let me not belabor the point. Steel has, over the long term in South Africa, been a competitive input.
Lastly then, who needs to do what to pull us back from the brink of this situation?
Yeah, look, I think it's not a black and white easy solution. I think these challenges we've been aware of for some time. The first announcement that ArcelorMittal made was towards the end of 2023 that they were looking to close the plant. However, during the course of last year, they rescinded that decision on the back of various discussions and I suppose plans that were being put in place with a range of support partners, including government, some of the agencies, funding agencies and the like. So what we'd like to see is a quick culmination of whatever those discussions were and some certainty on what's going to happen. And it's not necessarily about ArcelorMittal, the company. It's more about the asset and the products that are coming out of that plant. So I'm sure there's a range of solutions that can be explored to keep things moving.
All right. Thank you for your time this morning. That's Renai Motilal, who is the CEO of the National Association for Automotive Component and Allied Manufacturers. And we were talking there about the imminent closure of the proposed closure, of ArcelorMittal's Newcastle plant.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer,
Think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
All SASA Gold Cards will stop working on the 28th of February 2025. Replace yours today with the new Postbank Black Card at no cost. Join hundreds of thousands of grant beneficiaries already receiving their grants on their new Postbank Black Cards. For your convenience, you can collect your card at multiple locations nationwide. Card replacement points are at selected ShopRite Checkers, Pick n Pay and Boxer stores. To find a location near you, dial *120 *218 *3#. Don't wait. Upgrade your card today for free. Trusted by millions for 150 years. Postbank, your bank.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
22 minutes after 8 here on SAFM, the National Department of Health is warning South Africans to be aware of counterfeit condoms that are currently in circulation. The department says it is working with the private sector to tackle the problem. It is also urging consumers to report the sale of fake condoms and to rely on condoms from public healthcare facilities which are available for free. Let's speak now to Rampilane Morewane, who is the Acting Deputy Director General for Health Programs at the Department of Health. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. I mean, I was stunned. I don't know, at the back of my mind, I know that there are all sorts of counterfeit products that are out in circulation, but I certainly did not imagine counterfeit condoms. How widespread a problem is this?
Good morning, Julius, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM. Yeah, look, it's not widespread really, because we started hearing this around December holidays. And as far as we are concerned for now, I mean, this matter we can say is localized around Gauteng. But as we imagine, I mean, people always look at what can help them make profit. And I'm sure somebody could still be thinking about it. But I think the caution we should just give is that South Africans must learn to be very vigilant, and if they pick up something that's very untoward, such as counterfeit condoms being sold, they must be able to report them. The condoms from government, which any distributor, any public space, if they require them, they can get them for free. But I guess the problem is that they may not be able to sell those condoms that they get for free from government. So we're saying to our people, let's not fall for these kind of schemes, because condoms are available in government facilities, but even also in very credible and accredited, traders, you would find them in many other stores that we know are credible, and people could be able to find them there. They're relatively cheap, I guess, so people must therefore stay away from anything that looks like is cheaper and freer. And our condoms have got a label. There must always be a sign that shows it's FABS approved.
Yeah. So from the work that your teams have done, what are some of the characteristics of some of these fake counterfeit condoms? What do they look like? What should people be looking out for?
You see, Julius, when you look for something that's fake and you buy an item, the item should bear its original name. So these ones, they are not branded like you'd find them either in the normal, retailers or sellers, traders. Number one, the ones from government are really marked. They're marked. They're marked condoms, and these ones and the packaging. What we had is that even the packaging is very suspect. They are not sealed, and they are therefore available for almost like pulling out. So you hear different stories. They are available for pulling out. They are not sealed. The lubrication is very suspect. So there are a number of defects that they pick up, because the people that reported this are not even health professionals, are the users themselves, after realizing that this thing, they don't feel like the way they would normally feel, with an ordinary condom.
Does this add to the supply chain monitoring? We were talking about it around the issues of food and informal trading, such as spaza shops and the like. Does this add to the number of products that you must now be looking out for? And what are you doing to address that, such that there's wider information for those running spaza shops and smaller shops, but also for consumers to say we are cracking down on the supply chain?
I think that just quick three things that we're doing. One, firstly, is to give our people as much information as possible so that they mustn't fall for this. Number two, we say to our owners of those outlets where those condoms are sold that selling condoms is too dangerous, because people can contract HIV and AIDS out of using defective condoms. There could be sexually transmitted infections. There could be teenage pregnancies because of the condoms that they would burst or are perforated, right? So we therefore warning that this must not happen. But lastly, to say, anybody who sells any counterfeit goods, therefore the law enforcement agencies will be on their heels to make sure that they clamp down on the sale of these items. So the environmental practitioners and other law enforcers on the ground, when they do the inspections, they do then look out on items that look like counterfeit, and therefore, because they know in terms of standards what a normal condom should look like, they will definitely be able to confiscate them and hold those that are selling them accountable.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for that and sounding the alarm on this crucial, really important bit of public information. Rampelane Morewane is Acting Deputy Director General for Health Programs at the Department of Health.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, let me take one or two of your voice notes now and hear what you've had to say on some of the topics that we've been raising this morning, or any other issues that are exercising your mind this morning.
Hi, Thulas. The defense knows why Kelly Khumalo is not as a witness, because they discovered that during discovery. So there's no need to be outraged. And the defense has got a right to subpoena Kelly Khumalo if they think she's supposed to be in. So some of the things the defense is aware, but because they want to drive public outrage, they pretend as if they don't know, or they don't know what to do. They can subpoena her. Thanks, it's Bongi here.
Yeah, Bongi, thank you for that. Sorry, Selma. Bongi, thank you for that. It's an interesting take. I suppose for me, I just feel from the perspective of Kelly Khumalo, it is a principle in this country, if you are accused of a crime, which she has been accused of, in the way that it has all played out, either from the defense or from the prosecution themselves, but she's not been put on trial to answer to that. But I take the point you are making, that if the defense wants her to testify, they can subpoena her.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. This is Mandla Story from Witbank. The pushback from the white section of our population every time when a rule is promulgated that will redress the injustices of the past tells us a lot about their attitude. So I think we gave away too much too soon. We need to address this issue. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. No, I hear you, Mandla Stoll. And it's one of those that puzzle me when you see this pushback. It's as if triple BEE is a swear word. I don't know about that. Read your constitution. You will find it there in section 9, subsection 2, legislative and other measures. So it says even if you take this act that says triple BEE Act, you throw it in the bin, you still need to fulfill this imperative of the Constitution that talks to one of the founding values around the pursuit of equality. And we're talking here equality, not just a declaration that says we are all equal and everyone is supposed to be overnight, everything is fine, we are all equal. Bastardizations do occur. Focus on ownership only is one of the problems, where there are so many other ways to advance this issue of historically disadvantaged people who were affected by patterns of discrimination disadvantage and discrimination in the past. It's nuanced. It does require that corporates remain engaged with it, but I don't know if we're at a point where we can say we've fulfilled the Great Commission from the Constitution. We are now equal. Everything is fine. Let's walk away. Let's leave it there. But anyway, that's just me. Let's check in with Ann Musa now with the latest news headlines.
Good morning. Thanks to us. In the headlines, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against the Eastern Cape Judge President Sabi Mbenenge will continue to hear evidence from the complainant, Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo. The Transport Minister, Barbara Creasy, says pedestrian fatalities on the country's roads remain a major concern. This follows an increase in road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season, with pedestrians accounting for 41% of the deaths. And President Cyril Ramaphosa is leading the South African delegation to the World Economic Forum. The president is expected to address the forum this week. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very chaotic around Malabongwe Drive at the M1 highway. This truck overturning yesterday on Malabongwe westbound on-ramp onto the M1 north of four ways. That ramp's still closed. The bridge system's heavy. The ramps are heavily backed up. And it is having a major disruption for motorists coming eastbound towards Randburg on Malabongwe Drive. Also, alternative route seekers just jamming routes heavily from Bromhoff up through Sharonley and in towards the North Riding area. There's a lot of congestion there. Bayers Nordeer's bad this morning. Lights down from Lifestyle right through to Fairlands. There's a lot of pressure on that run through. There's been a crash on William Mandela coming into the Hurlingham area. So from Bryanston, William Mandela down to Parkmore is heavy. Behind that, Peter Place and Republic Road quite heavily backed into Sandton as well. M2 is interesting this morning from Benrose through to Crown. There's a big backlog downtown side of Joburg. That's running westbound. Pietermaritzburg to Ashburton, the breakdown just past Market Road. So that's heavy. A crash on the N2 north in Durban going up towards Kwamashu Highway. Quite heavy queues backlogging through Queen Nundy Drive and back towards the Inunda Road exit. And Cape Town, a bit of chaos unfolding on the N1 this morning. There's a crash on your way out of town at Plattercliff Road, which is just being cleared, but it's left a backlog. There's a breakdown on the N1 inbound at Kuburg. Get a change, and that's really heavy from Brackenfell. And then behind that, because the N1's so heavily congested, the N7 north from Goodwood and south from Plattercliff really congested on those rams coming off the N7 trying to get into that N1 traffic both ways. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Hey Zai, I see you have my favorite team
Yeah.
in action. MIC.
MIC.
Or is it MICT?
MIC. Yeah, there's a little bit of Bollywood that's coming.
I
That's
love the name, man.
Mumbai Indians, Cape Town.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the Bollywood team that's going to meet with the KwaZulu-Natal team. And let me tell you, if you look at Mumbai and KwaZulu-Natal, our coastline is way better. So just putting it out there. Spinners will be starring in every role, by the way, because I can tell you what, Kingsmead promises to be a spinner's paradise. Now, after a loss in spin-friendly Paarl, the MI Cape Town coach, Robin Peterson, admits they'll rethink their game plan with Rashid Khan and George Linder in fine form. The visitors are likely to bring extra spin options to counter the conditions. The Super Giants, who are led by Keshav Maharaj, also boast a deadly spin trio, including a young Afghan star, Noor Ahmed, and the local ace Pranelan Subrayan. Both teams have something to prove, with the Super Giants struggling at home and MI Cape Town coming off a confident win. Action will start at 5:30 this afternoon. More cricket, the Junior Proteas making a massive statement at the 2025 ICC Under-19 Women's World Cup in Malaysia, storming into the Super 6 stage with a historic win over Samoa. They bowled out Samoa for just 16 runs, the lowest ever score in tournament history. The South Africans cruised to a 10-wicket victory in just 1.4 overs. Intabi Singh Nini was the star of the show, taking 3 wickets for just 4 runs. The Proteas will next face Nigeria in a top-of-the-group decider tomorrow. Soccer action, Chelsea, they shrugged off that howler from their goalkeeper, Robert Sanchez, to beat relegation-threatened Wolves 3-1 last night, ending a 5-game winless run to climb back into the Premier League's top 4. And Liverpool head coach Arne Slot is unsure how much benefit there will be to finishing top of the Champions League table if his side makes it 7 wins out of 7 at home to Lille and Barcelona fail to win at Benfica. Liverpool will have an unassailable position with 1 match still to play.
Being on top maybe doesn't tell you that you're the best team. Being number 24 doesn't tell you that you're number 24 in terms of quality. It's a lot of has to do with the teams you faced. So yeah, we want to win, but not from an idea about that will probably give us then the best lead up for the rest of the campaign.
Tennis action, the 3rd seed and top-ranked American Coco Gauff knocked out of the Australian Open. She was beaten in straight sets by Paula Badosa of Spain at the Rod Laver Arena this morning. The 27-year-old Badosa won 7-5, 6-4 and will now head to her first ever Grand Slam semi-final. And finally, the World Anti-Doping Agency will not appeal against the ban given to Poland's Iga Świątek. The 5-time major winner tested positive for a heart medication in an out-of-competition sample in 2024. The International Tennis Integrity Agency accepted the test result was caused by contamination, and the world number 2 served a 1-month suspension, which ended on the 4th of December. That's your sport on the morning brief. There'll be more sport on SAFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Dowling once again. Dowling, not so long ago, before it happened, the prospect of being declared sub-investment grade or junk status used to terrify many of us in this country, but we've been swimming so deep in it. But now it seems that the finance minister says there's light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right, Tulas. And while the South African government and business community are actively promoting the country's investment case at the World Economic Forum, Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana says he's confident that the country can regain its investment-grade credit rating within 2 years. This comes after the country received junk ratings from Moody's, Fitch, and S&P Global in 2020 and 2017, respectively. At the sidelines of the forum, Godongwana shared with Reuters that the government is prioritizing structural reforms to stimulate economic growth with a focus on logistics and telecommunications. Those sectors in particular. Currently, South Africa's economic growth has averaged less than 1% over the past decade, with predictions of 1.7% growth this year and 2% in 2026. This according to a Bloomberg survey. But the research by the Business Unity South Africa suggests that growth could exceed 3% if the country expedites reforms, improves operations at Transnet and Eskom, and mobilizes private sector investment. So now Godongwana emphasized that the government is working hard to transform growth and that ratings agencies will change their outlook once they see tangible results. He further said that this is crucial as credit ratings play an important role in determining a country's credit worthiness and financial stability, influencing borrowing costs and investor confidence.
Yeah, so we have our work cut out for us, exiting junk status and exiting the Financial Action Task Force grey listing, etc. In company news, Ndawleng, tell me about Murray and Roberts. They've secured some funding, have they?
That's right, Silas. About 250 million in credit and post-commencement finance from capital markets, somewhat indicating some support from financial markets as the group works to recover. Now, the funding includes 130 million rands in post-commencement finance, which will provide capital for operations and restructuring, and 120 million rands in loans from financiers. The funding boost comes as M&R investors await a business rescue plan expected to be submitted for creditors' approval by the end of March this year. CEO Henry Lars has stated that the company will continue to sell off non-core assets, with the proceeds expected to generate enough revenue to pay off 409 million rands in outstanding debt owed to banks. Despite the business rescue proceedings of the Opti Power Unit, M&R's core assets, including its underground mining businesses, continue to operate as going concerns, delivering on their contractual obligations. The company manages a portfolio of high-quality underground mining assets, and the business rescue practitioners remain confident about the prospects of a successful business rescue. The group has faced challenges recently, including the recent resignation of 4 board members, which has raised concerns around stability as M&R navigates its path back to profitability.
All right, please look ahead for us. What kind of a day can we look forward to on the markets here at home and elsewhere in the world?
So local markets are in for another mixed day. Following global peers, traders will be looking out for mining production data, local mining production data that is, and commentary out from the World Economic Forum. Over on the currency front, the rand bouncing back, trading stronger at 18.62 the dollar this hour. In the U.S., futures are trending upward ahead of Netflix's fourth quarter earnings report. The upcoming release is expected to reveal whether the late December return of the hit series Squid Game provided a boost to Netflix subscriber growth. And then over in Asia, markets likely to finish mixed today as traders on that end await more clarity on Trump's policies.
All right, thank you for that. Have a great day. That's Ntauleng Lechela there. She's kept you updated on all things economy, business and the markets over the last 3 hours.
Outsurance are experts in what they do.
They get to understand what type of business are you doing so that they can insure you properly.
It actually validates why we're with them. If you haven't called Outsurance yet, what are you waiting for?
Switch to Business Outsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
The Queens of South Africa's beautiful game are taking a break from their pitch duties to dress up and walk on the purple carpet. It's a special evening to celebrate players, coaches, administrators, and officials for their incredible devotion to the game. This is the Hollywoodbet Super League Awards 2024. From grassroots to glory. Witness the Hollywoodbet Super League Awards on Sunday, 26 January at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC1 and SABC radio stations. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
17 minutes to 9. The Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, CIPC, has announced that it will embark on a mass deregistration of companies that have not met their obligations. These obligations include the timely submission of annual returns and ownership declarations. The CIPC says the deregistration will address the high number of inactive businesses and mitigate the risks posed by dormant companies. Let's speak now to Rory Vola, who is a commissioner at the CIPC. Good morning and thank you for your time. So what has necessitated what seems to me to be a clampdown on the part of the CIPC? What about compliance or otherwise with requirements has led you to this point?
Well, good morning to Thulasizwe and good morning to all your listeners. Well, what the law says is that a company needs to remain compliant on the register, the database of active companies, by lodging what is called an annual return. Now, the Companies Act further states that if you fail to lodge this annual return, which is a factual information request that we do to companies to tell us exactly if the company is still functioning, who are the directors, is it still at the same location, etc. If they fail to do that after 2 consecutive annual return cycles, then the law says that we must deregister a company, because in the eyes of the CIPC, that company is then dormant, failing to trade, and is required to be removed from the register. That is the compliance obligation for all companies.
What is the level of compliance then with that requirement? Is it a question of it's easier to say actually what is the level of non-compliance versus those that are compliant?
Well, it's between the 50 and 60% mark. But what I should state is that the majority of companies that register with the CIPC, somewhere in the region of about 90%, are smaller type of mom-and-pop type of entities, right? South Africa has got a large registration culture. We do something like over 400,000 companies on an annual basis, but then after 2, 3, 4, 5 years, we deregister quite a lot of companies also. Just last year, this is our second tranche of deregistrations. Last year, we deregistered in the region of 1.3 million. We're doing 800,000 now. We have been informing these companies over a period of time in order to bring their compliance level up to what is required by law. We've had campaigns, we've sent personal notification to directors and companies, and now we're on the last stage of informing them that they will be deregistered in the next couple of weeks.
How easy is it? And I'm wondering, because as you say, many of the companies you say are mom and pop companies. How easy is it for them to comply with those requirements? Is it not a complex thing that some are just daunted by?
It is a very simple process. Number one, it is strictly online. We have got an online presence, even a mobile presence. We've got an app presence. That form, which is called an annual return, is pre-populated by the CIPC. You don't have to go through every single aspect. If your company has not changed, and I'd say the majority are small, you just simply have to tick it off and basically lodge it. You pay a fee of about 150 Rand, depending on the size of the company. As I said, majority are smaller. And that is basically it. It is a 5-minute exercise.
And then there's the other process that has to do with beneficial ownership declarations. How different is that from the annual returns process, and what's the level of compliance with that?
Well, look, we've linked it, right? The beneficial ownership process has come about because of South Africa's grey listing by the Financial Action Task Force. Every country in the world who belongs to the FATF is required to keep what is called a beneficial ownership register. CIPC is doing exactly that for the countries to try and bring us out of grey listing. As of today, we have done over 1 million beneficial ownership registrations with the CIPC, and the number is increasing on a daily basis. This is a compliance level which has been part of us exiting the grey listing, and therefore we've linked it with the annual return compliance level.
And you are talking, Mr. Vola, about you've been talking about risks posed by dormant companies. What do you mean by that? What risks are there?
Well, a risk of being overtaken, is something called company hijacking, where people will be able to take over dormant companies who do not keep up their compliance level. They will be able to contract with other parties, thinking that they're contracting with the party who's on the register, but it's actually not that particular company and those particular directors. So dormancy creates quite a lot of complexity. It creates a lot of areas which could lead to further corruption, and therefore we need to build a lot of integrity into the South African companies register. That is the why that we like to go through process of arranging compliance webinars, compliance seminars, and making sure that company directors are fully au fait with their obligations.
And lastly, let me just ask you, a lot of the times you get the criticism that says we have red tape in this country, regulatory compliance, we don't encourage entrepreneurship. And I can imagine, playing devil's advocate here, I can imagine someone saying, all I want to do is start up a small business, employ 7 people, and get on with the business of helping South Africa cope with the unemployment situation. Now I must go through all these regulatory requirements. What would you say to such an argument?
Look, you're speaking my language, right? At the CIPC, over a period of time, we have also played the role and advocate for the reduction of red tape. For example, it takes a person approximately between 15 and 30 minutes to register a company in South Africa now. We've made the process so simple. We've made it online. We've got multi-channel approach where people can go out and do it wherever they feel like from the benefit of their couch, or they want to go into a self-service center and partner, an economic partner that CIPC has throughout the country and every province. We have made it simple, and we continue to do so. Like I said, the annual return We could have left it as a blank form where people filled it in, and then 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 hour later, they're still filling in the form. But we pre-populated it. We made it as simple as possible in order for people to comply. It is a simple process. It's similar to what you do with your tax return.
Yeah.
On an annual basis, you are required to lodge your tax return. We do exactly the same thing because the law requires it. But I 100% agree with you. We need to make those processes as simple for the entrepreneur as it should be. And we've tried to do that at the CIPC.
Gotcha. Rory Vola, thank you for your time this morning. He is a commissioner at the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission, the CIPC.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The M2 into Joburg stays heavy. Backlog from Joe Slovo through Rissik Street down to the Crown interchange. Interestingly, the Mike 1 through Crown up through Brantford to Parkdowns moved okay this morning. Heavy backlogs on the N3 from Edenvale all the way through to the N1 Buccleuch. The N1 south to Winnie Mandela is queuing up. And of course, chaos continues across Malabongwe Bridge. The ramp from Malabongwe westbound coming out of Randburg onto the N1 remains closed. And that congestion there also having a big impact on Malabongwe going east from North Riding, as well as snarling up the off-ramps from the N1 highway. Lots of traffic on Bayers Nordia this morning from Lifestyle across the M1 highway. That's a big queue if you're heading down towards the Crest area. N14 still heavy. The Krugersdorp highway through Brockfontein up as far as John Foster Drive in Centurion onto the N1 through Brockfontein is heavy. And the N14 approaching Eupheus Road remains slow. Still some traffic light issues at that off-ramp as well. Crossing the Durban, an earlier crash on the N2 North at Kumashu Highway has been cleared. All the breakdowns and crashes around Spaghetti Junction this morning have also been cleared up in that route operating normally. Cape Town's N1 inbound heavy this morning from Brackenfell. The problem is the broken down vehicle in the middle lane just by the Kuberg interchange. N1 into town very slow. Behind that the N7 backlogging both ways to get off the N7 and to get in the N1. It's particularly heavy going north from the Goodwood area, and some delays coming in through Khayelitsha. It looks like the roadworks may be in already between Spine Road and Meway. You'll probably find it down to one lane, and that's the explanation for the queue. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1999, a litre of petrol cost just under 3 Rand. Now it's about 21 Rand. It's scary how prices keep going up. In times like these, it's encouraging to know that Outsurance has got your back and is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Danica knows all about saving on her 2018 Haval H2.
I saved 455 Rand. It was quick and easy.
Here's Lebu with her sweet 644 Rand saving on her 2019 Mazda CX-3.
Gave me the best quote ever. My savings is 644 Rand. Come join our insurance and save some money.
You heard it here first. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's maximize on the last few minutes of the show. I'm glad that I'm seeing that. I think there are people who are much more enlightened than I am around this concept of quote-unquote reconfiguration in ANC talk. I know of dissolution, disbandment, and the likes. This is the first time I hear of reconfiguration. So let me talk to those people. Let me start with Bongani. Bongani in KZN. You know exactly what reconfiguration is, right? Good morning to you.
Morning. I really don't know, but I will just interpret, Yeah, hoping it won't be lost in the interpretation.
Yes.
Like you said, there's no such thing as reconfiguration in terms of the ANC constitution, but the Secretary General has got a duty to inform the structures first before he announced the decision. Unfortunately, they've made it their culture to say after the NEC meeting on Monday, they will call this brief media briefing and then tell us what the outcomes of the meeting was. So it is deliberate for him to use this language, but in the end, they will disband these structures.
You think so?
Yes. And if I can add my view on that, I think they are misguided. Because honestly, there's one big factor that they don't mention that led to this poor performance in KZN and Joburg. And that element is the Jacob Zuma element. So, if you think about Jacob Zuma as a prominent figure in the ANC at that time, and as a result, for him chopping off so much support from the ANC, that is not the failure of just the ANC in KZN and Gauteng, but that is the failure of the NEC themselves, of the national structure. Right. In fact, if South Africa was a different country, Ramaphosa would have been the first one to say the ANC has lost the 50% majority in my watch. Therefore, I am stepping down.
Sure, gotcha. Bongani, thank you for your inputs this morning. And by the way, the word used by Fikile Mbalula in relation to KZN, he says it's decimation, that the party was decimated at the polls. Churchill, good morning. You also understand what reconfiguration means?
Tulas, I also don't understand what reconfiguration is going to mean.
Who knows? Who knows
but
this
look,
reconfiguration?
Tulas, look, honestly speaking, when I'm looking at this, it's always natural that when an organization has not performed, those who are leading the organization would want accountability. But it's very unfortunate in the ANC because when you look at the ANC from 1994 in the elections, it has been declining. And to me, let's look at the bigger picture. These are signs of the liberation movement that is actually dying out. It's going to be worse with the SACP pulling out. And the Zuma factor has played a very big factor. So it's unfortunate for them to blame the KZN as well as Gauteng. It's natural a liberation movement is dying out. It happens in a liberation movement, unfortunately. And I want to say, it's very unfortunate that we never took advantage of implementing the most progressive policies of the land as well as means of economic production being the hands of the black majority. Well, we could, but unfortunately now we're in this situation. And the ANC, unfortunately, will never come back.
Yo, all right. Churchill, let's leave it there. Sobering note for the ANC leadership as they ponder how exactly to reconfigure, because apparently the task will now fall on the national officials of the ANC, and they will then work with the National Working Committee. So the top 6 leaders will sort of work around how exactly to reconfigure, and then the National Working Committee will then back that up, and then that will be rolled out in terms of what happens with the leadership structures in Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal.
Hi, Thulas. Hoping you're well. This is Daniel. Thulas, I fully agree with you. I don't know why Fikile Mbalula had to use such a big English word, configuration. What does that mean? Why can't he just use a simple English word, man? So that everybody understands what is configuration means. Thanks, Thulas.
Yeah, I guess we will wait and find out, and importantly, whether that reconfiguration will have the effect, the desired effect, on the ANC structures in the 2 provinces, because essentially that's what they are trying to achieve, right? To I don't want to use a big word now. You see what you've done, Daniel? Rejuvenate their structures in these 2 provinces so that perhaps their electoral fortunes can improve.
Good morning, Thulas. The counterfeit condoms, who are they giving them to? Who are they selling them to? Because HIV, teenage pregnancy is prevalent in SA, so why do they even exist? It's so annoying that we're even talking about it, but hey, this is SA.
Yeah, it is absolutely annoying. It is, someone has got to get a hold of these issues and these processes. How are all these counterfeit products ending up on our shelves? And as you rightly point out, here you're dealing with the consequences. You can draw a straight line. Not that, in as far as the counterfeit food and others, you can't see the consequences. But here, you're dealing with a situation that we've been dealing with over decades, pushing back and fighting this battle against HIV, sexually transmitted infections and the likes. And then we sort of dropped the ball in one area of regulation, and there's counterfeit products that are finding their way to the shelves. undermining some of the great work that we have done in the battle against HIV and also issues around teenage pregnancies, as you rightly point out. Thank you for that. Thank you for listening to us this morning and taking part and engaging with us. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of The Morning Brief. The Talking Point with Kethe Mohlahlana is up next here on SAFM, only after the news. And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today, SMS CAR to 43187.
In our top stories, Judge President sexual misconduct probe continues and pedestrian deaths remain a major concern. Good morning. The Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will continue to hear evidence from the complainant, Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo. Mengo has accused Mbenenge of sexual harassment in the form of in-person interaction and electronic interaction between June 2021 to November 2022. Yesterday, she testified that prior to lodging a formal complaint, she proposed a roundtable with other judges to address the Judge President and stop the alleged advances and seek the judge's intervention.
Ndandifuna uba ezijaji ndizicelileyo zikwazi uintervene zive lento yebisenziwa nguJP eqhubekeka.
I wanted these judges whose presence I had requested to intervene and also to hear these things that were being done by the JP.
Transport Minister Barbara Creasy says pedestrian fatalities on the country's roads remain a major concern. This follows an increase in road fatalities during the 2024-2025 festive season, with pedestrians accounting for 41% of the deaths. A total of 1,502 people have died. Creasy released the preliminary 2024-2025 festive season figures at a media briefing in Pretoria.
41% or almost half of all road fatalities are pedestrians. The highest percentage of pedestrian fatalities is in the big urban centres of Gauteng, Western Cape and KwaZulu-Natal. Gauteng had the highest pedestrian fatality rate at 63%, followed by Western Cape at 53% and KwaZulu-Natal at 44%.
Traditional healer Makgotso Mofokeng, known as Kokomaweni, will spend the whole week in prison ahead of a bail application next Monday. Mofokeng appeared in the Protea Magistrates Court yesterday on a charge of assault with intent to cause grievous bodily harm. She was arrested on Sunday in connection with an assault incident. It's alleged she assaulted the complainant with a bottle in December last year. The NPA says the matter was provisionally closed previously due to the untraceability of the complainant. However, further investigations led to the accused's arrest and court appearance. President Cyril Ramaphosa is leading the South African delegation to the World Economic Forum. The president is expected to address the forum this week. Ditaba Tsotetsi reports.
The president's participation at World Economic Forum comes at the time where South Africa is pushing hard to address the challenge of economic growth and inequality. Team South Africa had to answer tough questions previously on challenges of power supply. With load shedding having been addressed, the president will have a better story to tell. South Africa is currently leading the G20 and the president will share Pretoria's theme at the forum.
Furtherfield and finally newly inaugurated U.S. President Donald Trump says his government will establish an external revenue service. He has been sworn in as the 47th President of the United States. Trump says the service will collect tariffs and duties for foreign imports.
Instead of taxing our citizens to enrich other countries, we will tariff and tax foreign countries to enrich our citizens. For this purpose, we are establishing the External Revenue Service. to collect all tariffs, duties, and revenues. It will be massive amounts of money pouring into our treasury, coming from foreign sources. The American dream will soon be back and thriving like never before.
Recapping the top story, the Judicial Conduct Tribunal probing sexual harassment allegations against Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge will continue to hear evidence from the complainant Judge's Secretary Andiswa Mengo. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And that's your news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187.
Welcome to the SABC TV License Loyalty Program, where your payment isn't just about paying fees. It's about joining a vibrant community of connected viewers. Ready for the journey? Here's your roadmap. Sign up at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za and unlock an instant reward. You'll get an SMS to confirm your registration. Make a 50% or 100% payment to your account for a payment confirmation SMS and a promotional code. Explore our partners' product catalogs for an array of offerings. Receive an SMS voucher for your favorite outlet as the icing on the cake. Don't wait. Dive into a world of benefits. Register now at sabctvlicenserewards.co.za. T's and C's apply. Remember, TV license fees aren't just payments. They make a difference.
The SAFM Playwriting Competition is closing on the 3rd of February 2025. Explore the theatre of the mind and write your 60-minute radio drama play and email it before 5 p.m. on the 3rd of February 2025. Late submissions will not be accepted. For further information about the competition, visit safm.co.za or send an email to drama@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
This year, make it your goal to save on the insurance for your older car. With Outsurance Essential, you get up to 1 million rand liability cover. So if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rand. Add motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns. Get saving with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rand. SMS CAR to 43187. That's CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP, TCs and information online.
The Talking Point with Kathy Motlatlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
Do I have all my ducks in a row? No. Has everything been achieved within the timeline I wanted it to be achieved? Absolutely not. But I have learned to embrace the unexpected. I have learned to smell the roses along the way and let life unfold. If we remember that value is intrinsic, opportunities are right where you're at, and there's a greater joy in serving others, we can embrace the unexpected. And for me personally, a strong faith in God and believing that my life and hope is anchored in Him has made me embrace every unexpected outcome, knowing that even the difficult season, in the end, it works for my good. To me, it was unemployment. For you, it can be something else, but embrace it.
Tabitha Sindani, lecturer in the Entrepreneurship Division at the Executive Business Centre, Greenwich Business School. Starting us off this morning on the Talking Point, it's 10 after 9 o'clock. Welcome to the show. I'm Kathy Mutlahlana with you until midday as we lead the conversations that move us. Coming up on the show today, it is the open line. What a 24 hours it has been, right? All eyes, I think, have been on the inauguration of the U.S. President Donald Trump. Absolutely, if you go onto the local and international media platforms today, a lot being said about his inaugural speech last night. Of course, before that inauguration, Trump had already signaled that his coming into office, or his returning to office, would be pushing for a new world order. And I guess that inauguration speech then in that regard did not disappoint, right? So much that he has announced coming in as the 47th president of the U.S. There's, of course, the signing of the executive orders and decrees that has been effected, large parts of it really cracking down on immigration. There is an expectation that some of these executive orders are going to face legal challenges. He's also then following through in terms of withdrawing the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement because he doesn't recognize climate change. He's also withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization. And we know that the U.S. is one of the big funders of the WHO. So one wonders what the impact of that for that particular organization is also going to be. And remember, those 1,600 individuals that were arrested for the riots on Capitol Hill after they stormed it, well, they can expect to be free today after receiving presidential pardons from the president as part of those executive orders that he has signed in. So absolutely, one sense is that it's a different world that we could be waking up to. And in true Trump style, we know that every president will bring in his own officials, in his own administration. But one of the things that he then also did last night was to fire some of the former members of the Joe Biden administration. Imagine that, right? Going on X, and in this tweet, he says that he was actively in the process of identifying and removing over 1,000 individuals that were appointed by Biden as they're not aligned to making America great again. He then names 4 individuals, and at the end he says, "You're fired." Some of the stuff is just unbelievable. And of course, that would be the catchphrase from when he had that show, The Apprentice. So, yeah, I guess everybody should buckle in. It's going to be quite a ride over the next couple of years with a Trump presidency in the U.S. I wonder how you are feeling about all of this and what you think the impact of it on the world is going to be. In fact, what I'm going to do then is let me just play you a snippet of some of the highlights from that inaugural speech.
So we paid $500 million to World Health when I was here, and I terminated it. China with 1.4 billion people. We have 350 to pay. Nobody knows what we have because so many people came in illegally, but let's say we have 325. They had 1.4 billion. They were paying 39 million, we were paying 500 million. It seemed a little unfair to me.